Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 366. Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, alongside Johnny V.
In this glorious new studio we have.
Brand new studio that no one has ever seen before. First ever night here, and I mean, they can tell.
I mean, it's
looks very different.
Let me put it this way. I can't touch the curtain now. I used to be able to reach back and touch the curtain. So if you're noticing a little bit of difference in sound quality, we're in a different environment right now, and I haven't had a chance to treat it. So we might hear, it might sound a little hollow, maybe a little echoey at times. I don't know. But I kind of threw it together today in about 2 to 2.5 hours. But we'll struggle through, Terry. I promise.
We always do. If there's one thing we're good at, it's struggling. So we are here. Johnny V has moved, him and his family.
Not just me.
No. It's picked up from closer near the airport area. We'll say, if you're familiar with Milwaukee geography, somewhere in the airport area of there. The area of the airport. Wow. To move more like 25-ish minutes north, 20 to 25 minutes north, straight up 43. And for more geography, that would be on the way to Sheboygan, certainly short of there, but closer to the Brown Deer disc golf course. So...
yeah, we're about, 3 miles from there, would you say?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'll give the GPS coordinates there. 3. No.
That's fine, whatever.
So we are here in the new studio. So congratulations to Johnny and family.
My calves are sore from moving.
What was it, about 11 or 12 years you were at the other residence?
16.
16?
Yeah, since 2005.
God, you're old. You are so old.
That was the joke. We did our fantasy football draft that you're a big part of here for the media team, Terry.
Yes.
And we have a great team, of course. We're the best in the league or something.
On paper, we are.
And the joke was, someone asked, how long have you known Terry? And I was like, oh, since we were like 14. So like, I don't know, 92. And the one guy's like, I wasn't even thinking about being born. And I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah. Enough of that.
I'm done with you.
We were friends before fantasy sports existed. Let's put it that way.
Practically.
So tonight, of course, in just a few moments, actually, we're going to welcome our newest national tour winner, Connor O'Reilly. We're going to bring him in just a couple minutes. And
I was going to say, speaking of young guys, he's not young.
No,
he's been around, but he's
our
young
newest.
to the sport. He's young to the sport.
Relatively young to the sport. We'll get into that a little bit. Just 5 years, and just a face that we've seen out there on tour, but maybe even he himself hadn't expected yet to find atop the leaderboard this early in his career. Maybe he did. We're going to find out more about that. So quickly, big shout out also on the FPO side, of course, Katrina Allen taking it down over there in Delaware as well. PDGA National Tour event took place this last weekend, and then we'll later talk about what's in store over the next month or so. A ton of live disc golf, post-production, Disc Golf Pro Tour. The national tour is going to be wrapping up at the Music City Open at the end of September. Just a ton of things that continue to roll on before we get to our other major, being the USDGC and the Throw Pink women's event. I get tired just thinking about it. So we won't think about it anymore. Now we just go into interrogation mode. We're going to bring in the newest national tour champion, Connor O'Reilly. Hey, buddy.
What's going on, you guys? Excited to be here.
Man,
we're excited to have you.
Yeah, so good to have you. And in full disclosure to the world, I had messaged Connor earlier and said, I enjoy being in the booth. I enjoy being on site, but this is one of those situations where a new fresh face taking down an event, a national tour event, especially in the way that you did it, man, I would have loved to stand there and talk to you at the end, but we get our chance now, and I have to just start with 2 days later. Is it set in? How does it feel? What's the vibe that you have going on?
Yeah, I mean, the initial kind of burst and wave is starting to settle out, and every time I talk to someone who I haven't seen since who's congratulating me, it's just kind of setting in a little more. But,
how many?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. How much has your stock risen in that? You're new friend requests and new followers and all this other stuff. Is it almost overwhelming or no?
No, it's absolutely overwhelming. I mean, I told a couple of friends, I feel like I won one tournament. I need to hire a social media manager. It's like I had to turn off my notifications. It's getting a little stressful, but I'm trying to manage it properly.
Damn, this guy's blowing up.
What's your social media of choice? Are you a Facebook? Are you an Instagram? Are you
Instagram's
Snapchat?
probably my enough choice. But yeah, Instagram's probably my main choice that I use. And I still use Facebook just because like the groups and stuff I feel like are pretty integral in disc golf. So, and there's a lot of the older generation who's on Facebook. So I make sure to try to cater to all the crowds. So.
Yeah, my 12-year-old lectures me and says, "Dad, no one's on Facebook. That's for old people." So
wait till she has to join some stupid group for something, and they're only on Facebook.
Exactly. So, wow. Let's just back up a little bit, and what I think about that, you didn't squeak this one out. I mean, you performed so well on opening day. You performed even better on second day. And on the third day, it was still considered a good round. You didn't falter, you didn't trip up and fall on your face and barely squeak it out or anything silly like that. You performed well. It wasn't as good as the first 2 days, but that was also setting a pretty high standard. What were you thinking about sitting on a 5-stroke lead going into that third and final round?
Yeah, I mean, obviously new territory for me. I mean, I never been on a feature card before. First time lead card at an elite series, and I mean, I always had the self belief, and I've been working really hard the last couple of years. So for me, it was just trying not to think too much about like, okay, you've never been here. Like you're facing some of the best players in the world. Ricky Wysocki, who's arguably the hottest player on tour this year, and arguably the #1 player in the world right now. And yeah, just trying to make sure I just stayed focused on what got me here, which is just like doing my process, making sure I go through my routine and just to keep trusting it.
So everybody says they have their routine and a process, and they're stressed or they're nervous, they just always rely on their routine. Like that's the stock answer, and I 100% believe it. But what is that routine for you? What does that mean to you when you give us that answer? What does that mean for you when you're stepping up to either a drive or a putt? What exactly are you going through?
Drive wise, I kind of step to the front of the tee box and like to put my foot kind of where I want my last step to be. And I really like to visualize that angle. So you'll see me holding up my disc and like looking at the angle I want to throw a number of times before I release it. So I'll kind of stand at the front of the box, try to visualize it, and then I'll step back to the back and once again try to visualize that angle. And then I think the biggest thing that really clicked for me this weekend is I realized with the help of just like watching some of the other players who've had success this year, as well as Luke Humphreys, kind of let me know like whenever I was getting a little nervous, I would play fast, especially with my lower body. And I think the biggest thing for me this weekend was like thinking about slowing my tempo down with my legs, knowing that like my smooth stroke could get the job done without adding too much legs and just trying to be accurate and be consistent. And I think the slower tempo running up also helped my brain not overthink things and be a little more simple-minded. Whereas I think my faster approach, trying to make things happen, my brain's ramping up and maybe thinking bad things at the end of the throw versus just being smooth, being steady, and being confident. I think that was huge for me in terms of putting. I kind of also like to step up and visualize. I like to do my 2 little pump fakes unless it's a real short putt, and just feel out the stroke. And yeah, I really just try to focus on the breath, and then just tell myself to focus and make sure I follow through.
When you're putting, are you looking at a section of the basket, the pole, a specific link of chain, a general area? Everyone's a little bit different. So what is your key, or what are you trying to dial in on?
Yeah, I like to pick a specific link, and then obviously as you get farther away from the basket, that's a little harder to do. So you kind of start to choose like high right in the basket or whatever. But inside the circle, I'm choosing a link, and it's usually the link that's like just left of the pole available to me because I've found that I think my right eye dominance pulls me a touch right. So I think being just left of the pole for my closer putts has really worked for me. And then as I get farther out, I center it up and then move it off to the right even some as I get really far out.
Interesting that you say just left of pole, where a lot of people being a righty putter, you would think maybe just a tad right of pole, but that's it. I mean, yeah, I feel like clearly analyzed it.
Yeah, I feel like it's easy. Like when I get tense and timid on the course, my typical miss is to hold on to the putter for a second longer than I'd like to release it, and I think that usually brings it off to the right. So I think that left side just kind of helps mitigate a little bit of that, especially from close range.
So at one point during the round, I was trying to pay really close attention to your actual pull through your swing, and I was trying to. I think I maybe even lobbed it up to Philo directly or indirectly, talking about an influence and or a similarity. So I guess just asking you directly, is there any person that you feel like you've gotten an influence from or that you tried to mimic when it comes to your actual physical drive and release and throw?
I mean, there's definitely a number of players that I kind of tried to take things from. I feel like try to take things from kind of all players. I feel like Simon had some good videos that really helped me understand just pulling the disc cleanly around my body without rounding. So that was like a big step for me, listening to some of his videos. Um, I mean, I always kind of like modeled some of my game after Rick, especially like I copied his putting stroke for the first like 2 years I played. I kind of developed my own nose angle now and stuff, but and my own stroke. But yeah, I definitely took some stuff from Simon. I mean, I kind of try to take stuff watching all players. I watched Paul's body control and his just the way he is always in control of his pace and his body. Obviously, locally, a guy like Bradley Williams in my area is a clean thrower, and he's got really good mechanics. So he's a guy that I could definitely look to and try to mimic a little bit from, and just kind of try to take a little bit from everyone's game, and then everyone's bodies and their mechanics are a little bit different. So just trying to really simplify my stroke and get rid of any of the extra stuff that wasn't needed.
Yeah, and I guess what maybe I noticed more than anything is it felt like you really kind of pull in closer to your body, and I'm well maybe because I was sitting next to him, I was thinking of a Philo who I feel like kind of really pulls through a little bit lower. I don't want to say just at your stomach area, but it feels like you kind of pull through there more so than some of the other players. And that's what got me kind of thinking about it. And maybe Philo didn't even recognize or see any similarities. I don't know. But I was very curious to know where you got that from. And when you say a Macbeth or a Bradley Williams, I kind of can, that's how I would associate it. I guess that makes sense the way that they pull through as well. So,
Yeah.
um, all right, so we're gonna go even further back though. We got to get to the basics. You're not a regular here yet, so everybody's got to if they haven't picked up all the other places and learned more about you, we have to go back and start with the history. And you were vocal, and we very much then promoted it, as did the PDGA. You picked up your first disc about 5 years ago. Your brother introduced you to the game, but give us some of that background, some more of that detail about what you fell in love with and how you found yourself to be competitive with the sport.
Yes, I mean, first time I went out and played with my brother, we probably only played 10 holes. Our local course, Circle C in Austin, that we could that was right by our house. There's kind of a good 10-hole loop that puts you back at the parking lot. So we played 10 holes, and I think in those 10 holes he beat me by like 25 to 30 strokes or something. And it was like always for my entire life, I never played a sport where throwing was like a huge advantage, being coming from a basketball background. But anytime I was out hanging out with the neighborhood kids or friends and competing, like I was usually one of the better throwers in terms of power and accuracy out of the groups. And I always kind of regretted not trying a sport where that was a huge advantage. And always kind of loved being outside, love fishing, I love hiking. Just when I was in college, I liked kind of learning about some of the wild edibles that were around and just going and foraging a little bit, and just like always like being outside. So the kind of marriage of my competitive nature and love for being in nature was it was just kind of the perfect storm for me. And throughout in the first like 6 months were pretty casual. Like rarely would we actually finish around, just kind of play a few holes, have some fun. And then throughout that process, I just kind of like anytime I spend time on something, I kind of try to master it. And I start looking up like how to do things more efficiently, and like how the top people do it. And like just because I feel like that's just human nature. When you're going to spend enough time on something, you kind of want to learn how to do it right, or else it's like, why am I going to spend so much time doing this thing? And throughout that process, just kind of started to see some beautiful disc flights. Like the first time I ever threw a hyzer flip that turned to the right, like I had this beat up DX Shark that my brothers have been using, and just like I thought it was the most amazing thing ever. I threw like a 240-foot hyzer flip over, and was like 8 months into the game at that point, and just like thought it was the most amazing thing ever. And just like having those kind of moments, and just like seeing like the love of flight, it was just yeah, it was just a perfect storm for me.
Well, I mean, we often say if you're a righty backhand dominant player, like anyone, throwing straight's the hardest thing, and the second hardest thing is to throw a beautiful turnover or to throw an Anheuser that actually goes. It takes the flight you want and it lands where you want. It's not just an accident or a wild turnover. Yeah, I mean, so to hear that those things are what got you hooked, or that you had that maybe that aha moment, is it safe to say that at this stage you learned quickly and you researched it, and places like YouTube were the immediate resource?
Yeah, I think about a year in, that's when I was like, no, probably like 9 months in, getting towards like that next summer of like 2017, the beginning. I was starting to think about, maybe trying to start competing in some tournaments, and had started to watch all the YouTube stuff. And around that time, I kind of started, yeah, trying to like be a sponge for the information that was out there. And I came into the game at a time where like there's so much good information to use. Like if you want to get better, like the information's out there if you're willing to put the time in. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, what do you remember what those resources were? Were those tutorials? Did you get into? Did you care about the tournament? The shot by shot coverage and things that were being offered. Like, yeah, what specifically got you really hooked on it?
At that time, I mean, the coverage I feel like was still like, it was just like starting to erupt and like fill out with more media companies. But at the time, I feel like it was pretty easy to consume like all the media that came out each weekend and still be hungry for a little more. So I was definitely diving back a little bit into some. I mean, I watched everything from the basic form videos. Like I'm pretty sure I've watched the Beto video before on YouTube to like I've watched some random guy in Colorado telling you how to throw, and like I've watched all like everything from kind of the iffy ones to like to the Simon clinics, and like the Sexton clinics and Paul Macbeth, and like so. And then I think once I started playing tournaments, I started after probably about six months of playing tournaments or more, I started to realize that I needed to like start videoing myself to really see what I was doing, because like I felt like I was doing things better, but then I'd see it on video and be like, whoa, I didn't think I looked like that. And so I think starting to dabble into video analysis definitely helped me clean up my form. And I kind of wish I would have like right away done that, but I didn't quite right from the start have the plan of making disc golf like really my thing. Like if you had told me right when I started, like, oh, like yeah, you're gonna make this like your entire life, like I would have been like, oh, probably not. But
so speaking of the form, at what point did you realize just how crucial a sidearm was, and what steps were you taking to develop that part of the game, or was it immediately a sidearm versus a backhand, or what was the evolution for you?
Yeah, if I wasn't one of those guys who like took the sidearm quick, for me it was more the backhand. And then when I started playing tournaments and I started like playing at some advanced tournaments, I realized like most people could throw at least both ways decently. And I just realized watching the top guys in the game and like kind of at the time like striving to like get towards the top of the game, I realized that you needed to spin the disc both ways. And so yeah, I kind of developed a sidearm second, and I got it pretty good to where I could throw like a good accurate shot at like 330. And then I changed my finger grip from having like the side of my fingers in the rim of the disc to like the pad of it. And that all of a sudden added like another like 75 feet. And then like I started getting my legs in it. And then all of a sudden like I was throwing sidearm probably past like almost like anyone in the area. And I was like, okay, like this is now like a big tool. Like people started thinking of me as like a sidearm player, whereas I started to kind of heavily lean on it, but then I feel like I've kind of balanced it out now to where I kind of just take whatever the course is throwing at me, and I can kind of just throw it either shot.
Yeah, and I think back to watching you this weekend, thinking, like, oh yeah, well now he's going to throw a sidearm, now he's going to throw a back. Like it, I didn't even second guess it at any point. You were proficient in both. And I was like, well, apparently he's comfortable with everything. Like, where the hell did this guy come from? What's he doing? He's got this down.
He's been around, Terry.
Yeah, I'm a sponge.
Yeah, I mean, just so many people. It's almost obvious. What they either prefer and or they're more proficient in. And for you, it didn't seem obvious, so to speak. If I had to guess, I would almost say it felt like your sidearm was something you were a tad more comfortable with, but that's just maybe not from seeing enough of your game. Because would you say that that's not the case? If given the choice, let's just word it this way: if given the choice of throwing a hole, 18 holes, would you rather have 18 sidearms or 18 backhands?
That's a loaded question, but I feel like I don't know, just like I'd probably go backhand, just because like the load on the body, throwing that many sidearms is just like it's more stressful on the body and whatnot.
It's
And
tough
I
on
hate to
your
be like
elbow.
the cliche player. I hate to be the cliche player who says like I feel like the balance in my shot abilities and like ability to throw all different shots well is like my best asset, but I feel like it kind of is.
Yeah, I mean, and there's nothing negative or cliche about that. I mean, if you're a well-rounded player and you recognize that early and you've developed that early, I mean, that puts you light years ahead of some of the more old school players that don't necessarily either develop the other side, or they just don't concentrate on it nearly as much, and they do everything they can to avoid it. I mean,
Yeah,
Kale
there's a lot of
LaVisca is
players
clearly
that
one of the
yeah.
greatest of all time, but he still would rather not throw a forehand if he ever, if he had the choice. James, I think, fair enough, would say the same. If
Yeah,
given the
for sure.
choice, they'd be okay to never throw a forehand the rest of their life if they didn't need it. So,
And I think for me, like seeing Eagles' year of dominance a couple years ago, like that was right when I was starting to try to make the transition into playing some open tournaments. And I was like, all right, like this is the future of the game, obviously.
yeah.
Being able to throw hard shots on hyzer that are going to stand up and then finish on a little bit of hyzer, but like in control and softly both ways. So I kind of tried to start to model my game where like, okay, on any hole, I want to be able to release with a slight bit of hyzer because that's like my comfortable angle, and then have the right disc that'll kind of fly the shape after that.
Well, I mean, a couple other guys that have joined the tour in the last couple of years, just right off the top of my head, obviously Kyle Klein. We've seen what he's been doing. He's got, phenomenal from both sides. And then another Wisconsin guy in Adam Hammis. Same thing. He's very comfortable from both sides. And he'll tell you, they'll probably both tell you they'd prefer one or the other. But I know when they walk up to a shot, I'm like, oh, they got to throw a forehand. Like, that's no sweat. They're going to be proficient in it. So the fact that you recognize that and you develop that early on proves how much you've been thinking about it. Now, you've talked about being a sponge, and Nate Perkins, had texted me graciously and said that, he also informed me that you're a real student of the game. Dive in, just give us a little more detail when you're looking or observing or honing in. What are some of the things that you're looking for, or do they just jump out at you and then you scratch it on your notepad? What are some of those student moments for you?
I don't know. I kind of just try to look at players who do certain things well and see like if there's anything that's like a pattern, like something like I thought I was kind of like getting to the point where I didn't need like a lot of work on my form, but then like I started to realize watching players like Kyle Klein, for instance, and there's some other players who do a really good job. Andrew Presnell is actually another one who comes to mind for me, but like playing in the woods and hitting gaps where you don't necessarily need to get the full shoulder turn and turn your head back to get the good distance. Being able to like keep your eyes on the target and like at the work at like your peak reach back, have maybe like a 90 degrees head to the basket to where you can still kind of peripherally see it. I noticed that a lot of really good gap hitters and woods players were keeping their eyes forward longer than I was in the shot, and I was kind of turning my head back more fully. And so that's something I've tried to be more aware of and like conscious of recently, as I feel like most of the rest of my swing has come along to where I can trust it. So that's kind of been one of my recent things that I've been trying to focus on, especially as we get more into the wooded courses later in the stretch of the year. But yeah, like early on, I kind of stabbed the disc out in front of me before I even reached it back, and like realizing little things like that, I was like, that's an extra motion that I don't even need, and it's pulling my momentum away, and now my timing's going to be off, and there's more variables that I have to deal with now. And so I think eliminating things like that, and yeah, just kind of finding little things along the way to
Okay,
try
that
to make
makes
it
sense.
better.
Does that mean it's going to run out of battery? Sorry, one second. We got
It might. Keep
maybe,
talking. I'll fix it.
I believe we've got a housekeeping note here that Johnny's going to work on with the new house. So that kind of leads right into another question, which is earlier in the year, I feel like it was Jonesboro. I think for at least one of the rounds, you were on the bag for Paige Pierce. Does that sound right? Am I making that up?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that was correct.
And
Yeah.
and so everything you just said about being a student of the game, and then you look at arguably one of the best, if not the best, female to ever play. Clearly, you're still picking things up, regardless of gender or regardless of division. Is there anything? I'll put you on the spot a little. Is there anything from Paige's game that was, an aha moment, or the way in which she, physically or mentally attacks the course or a tournament or goes about her business? Was there anything that you've picked up from her?
I feel like from Paige, it's just like seeing that confidence and just that she kind of oozes out of her, and just like seeing her belief. That's kind of one of the biggest things for me, I think. And then just like I was so blown away the first time I played with her. Like there's a hole we still have two. It's like 3:30. I'm pulling out my putter, throwing it, and then it's like I'm looking at her. She's throwing her putter too. It's like, is this really? Is this real? Like it's like I already knew it. I'd watch it on camera, but like to be there and see it, and just to see her swagger and her competitive fire, and like I think that's the biggest thing for me. Just like the competitive fire she has and the way she carries herself, and also with her, like she's such like a gracious competitor. She roots for everyone that she's playing against, even when they're like beating her butt, and like that's something I really noticed and admired out of her.
So that will lead also from we'll say a physical component, maybe into a little bit more of a sportsmanship or a mental component. Are there other things that you're picking up from players? You've talked a lot about analyzing their form, your form, or things that they do. You just talked about that, but is there other things you pick up from fellow competitors? In any given division.
Yeah, most definitely. I feel like as I've gotten better, obviously I've kind of started to just like trust the stuff that I've built, and at this point, I feel like I've got a pretty good like ammunition base to go off myself. But yeah, I mean, there's still times like I remember I stepped up to a big putt at Idlewild. I made like a 40-footer on hole two, staring at the water in the back, and I was like, stepped up into my head before I even like kind of started my routine. I was like, would James run this? Like, would Paul Macbeth run this? Like, do you want to win? Do you want to win on an elite series? Like, you have to run this. There's no decision to make. It's like you have to go for this. So I think just picking up that mentality and seeing how some of the players carry themselves, and like even like seeing Ricky and seeing how he kind of flips a switch sometimes, like final day, or just in seeing like the way like just like the way he's carrying himself on the course, and how like he's so focused that like other things don't really even like come into his head to an extent. He just kind of blocks them out. And yeah, just keep kind of trying to pick up little things here and there. I feel like uh I mean, yeah, like earlier in the year I picked up mechanically something from Perkins. Actually, he told me I was having trouble in Vegas. A lot of the big distance shots in Vegas, you have to pull to the right late in the shot. As a right hand backhand player who likes to throw a lot of hyzer releases, I was having a little bit of trouble with that. And I was like, naturally it would always hold the disc one specific way when I throw it, and that was like a really good way to grip it for hyzer release. But he just told me like a little trick to kind of, I'll grab a disc, but he told me like a little trick to kind of drop. How do I do it? Good angle. Here. Oh, I'm not sure I'm going to show this, but like you kind of just like drop the disc down in your hand a little bit to where there's like more space between your thumb and the disc than there
Okay.
typically would be. It's hard
Okay.
for me to show from this angle. Like
Sure.
typically I would hold it here, and then I would like kind of drop it down, and that would help me just kind of set the anhyzer over. So like I picked up that little grip thing early in the year, and that like made a big difference for me on anhyzer releases. So I guess like that's one of the physical things I've picked up so far this year. I feel like a lot of the year, like playing with James, I was like trying to use my legs too much and like seeing how he did it. And I feel like this weekend slowing down, I was kind of watching Matty O actually and all the success he's had recently, and how he kind of does his little stutter step, and then he kind of slowly just makes his way, and like he's not getting a ton of lower body momentum into it, but his timing's really good and his angles are good, and like he's still generating tons of power even without using like a ton of legs in it. So I think watching Matty kind of made me realize like, okay, I need to slow my pace down and kind of let my legs just like set the shot up, and then let the whip and the timing create the power.
Yeah, I think about it. And it's funny you bring it up because anyone that watches golf, think about the contrast in a Matty O run up to a James Conrad run up. Like they
Yeah.
couldn't be
Further.
they're worlds apart. I mean, just totally different, and both, incredibly accurate, great woods throwers, both have great power, but just get it done in very, very different ways. So now,
Yeah, for
just
sure.
to backtrack for a moment on that thought, you talked about, laying up or running at a putt, with Paul or James or whatever. Are you to the point where you feel like that's, of course, situational, but also maybe dependent even within the tournament? Like, will you have that same thought in round 1 on hole 2 as maybe round 3, or round 3, hole 2? Does all of that factor in, or do you feel like you're just developing an entirely different, aggressive mentality that's on the gas pedal the whole time?
No, it definitely factors in. Like, I mean, final round there last weekend, I had that cushion, and I had like a long putt on hole 1. I could have tried to birdie, and I was like, this is not worth it. Just lay up, take my 4. Hole
Yep.
2, I could have really committed to my Anheuser angle, but I just like wasn't really feeling that release and just kind of put it to the left side of the basket, tapped in par. And then once again on hole 3, had a putt from about 40 with the ravine behind it, and it was a very makeable putt just mechanically and just like distance wise. But I was just like, no, I'm still kind of playing with house money, so just lay it up. So it definitely changes from time to time. But early in the tournament, I'm probably gonna have more of a try to give myself as many opportunities to score as I can. But here and there, there's a green that just like you just gotta eat your medicine. But it's hard to do sometimes when you can make it. So it's a hard balance to strike.
Yeah, and walk us through a little bit of, and you just used a great phrase. You're playing with house money. Walk us through your mentality on maybe rounds 1 and 2 and how it contrasts with round 3, because in a sense, right, you're playing a little bit of checkers or chess or whatever analogy we want to use. You're playing the course, but yet you're still playing other people to some degree, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, like the first 2 days, it was easier for me to just I was really mainly just focused on my game plan and like what's my target on each hole and like what's my aim point, where am I trying to land the disc, and that was easier to do the first 2 rounds. But then like sleeping on a 5-stroke lead, knowing all the pressure's on me, and like knowing every mistake I make, the field's getting closer. It definitely changed it up a little bit. I definitely played a little more tense and not quite as free flowing. And like I said, had a couple of those layups that I decided to take and just try to keep fighting on another hole.
I mean, it looked really, I don't say rough. The first couple of holes, obviously, you were playing much more conservative. But
But
looking at that
I
third
mean,
round, Ricky was 2 down and you were 1 over at one point. And I'm sure everybody at home was sitting there thinking like, oh, all right, well, this is where Ricky takes off and this is where Connor folds because, he's young and in the sport and he just, this is what's going to happen. And then you turned it on and you birdied the next 5 to give yourself a
yeah,
little
I
bit of a
mean,
cushion.
yeah, I conceded the 3 pars to start and then took bogey. I didn't throw a single good tee shot on hole 4 all weekend, and I was thinking pre-round to change my game plan and throw a turnover explorer because I was throwing my fairway drivers really well all weekend. And I stuck with my sidearm just like stubbornly, like no, I can throw it good, so I'm gonna, and threw it out of bounds and then just barely clipped that middle tree. And at that moment, it's like okay, I had a 6-stroke lead on maybe the most dangerous chaser we have right now in the game, and he's now 3 strokes behind, and we have 14 holes to play. And I was like, all right, it added a lot of pressure, but it also was like, okay, man, like you're already kind of letting it away. Like, or what are you gonna do now? Like, are you gonna like lay down and just like keep flopping, or are you just gonna like commit to your target and do what got you here?
What
So I think,
was the pressure better for you? I mean, when you're going into the first and second, I mean, there's not a lot of pressure first round. It's kind of your chips fall where they are. But the second round, you have a lead, or you shot the course record or something, I believe. But you're sitting with Ricky behind you. Does it feel better for you to play with pressure, or would you rather have going into like the last, couple holes? I can't say you had it wrapped up, but do you play better under pressure?
yeah, I think I prefer the pressure. Like for me, all year I've had a lot of like really early tee times and like not super competitive cards, and sometimes I find myself falling in the trap of like not feeling the vibe and not feeling as serious. It doesn't feel like it's as real. Like And like this weekend, getting chose for my first feature card, knowing that there's other players out there probably feeling more deserving of me in that spot, knowing that fans are out there thinking like, oh, who is this guy? Why is he getting a feature card spot? And just there's that little bit of added pressure being on the cameras. We had like a small gallery following us, and I really think the pressure just like and the nerves just make me be present and like I can't be distracted because this thing matters so much to me, and I'm so nervous like I have to do it and I have to like really focus on it. So I think for me, I really embraced the pressure and the nerves, and like that was my first time playing in front of a gallery, and it was just like such a different vibe, and that's just what I want it to be every single time I step on the course.
I mean, keep playing with these big guys, and you'll do that. Going into the end of the round, I'm sure you guys, or maybe you weren't aware at the time, but Hannum was on a he was on a runner right there. Were you keeping track of scores, or did you kind of take a hands-off approach, and did you realize how close he was getting?
Yeah, I didn't. I honestly didn't really look at the leaderboard all weekend during the tournament until, I mean, I had Nate obviously with me there, and I was watching the we had the stick board with us,
Mhm.
obviously with our card, and I knew, I mean, 6 strokes was the bottom of our card behind me, and then I knew obviously we had Calvin on the chase card, and we had some other dangerous shooters that were able to pop off a hot round, and I felt like I hadn't played bad enough really to have a guy off of another card pop off unless it was just something unreal. And it wasn't until actually I was 2 shots into 17, and I was like kind of talking with Nate. I was like, all right, I got Rick 3 behind. Like I'm probably taking par at worst here. Maybe a chance at a birdie if I throw a good third shot. Um, and then I knew like if I got off the tee clean on 18, I'd probably have bogey at worst there, and that's like even if that's if I threw some couple really bad shots. And so I was kind of thinking like, all right, 3 on Rick, but then that's when he let me know Hannah was in the clubhouse just 2 behind, so that kind of threw like a little unknown pressure on me. But at that time, like I only had a couple shots left, and they weren't the most demanding shots, and I've been throwing my fairways nice and straight all weekend, so I felt pretty good about how I could handle hole 18 if I got off the tee clean. Um,
Yeah, I
so
felt
yeah, I
like
didn't know too much about.
once you got off the 17 relatively clean, that you kind of had it wrapped up at that point. Like you would have had to do something epically bad on 18 in order to get into a playoff even. So a lot of us in the control room were just kind of, it was a nice sigh of relief for us because not being able to cover Austin like we did, we felt much better about that. Did
Yeah,
you? I mean,
that the story was on there on the camera the whole time.
yeah. Yeah. Did you hear?
Yeah.
Did you hear Austin's ace like on the course? I mean, there was a pretty good cheer.
I think we did hear there wasn't a ton of people over. We had like a good majority of the crowd with us, but I know there was a little pocket of people over there that we did hear earlier in the round, but we couldn't tell if it was like a big putt or whatnot. But when I did stove to 15's tee, or right around there, Nate was telling me that Austin had aced it, and like I was like, oh, he aced it. Like you get an ace in any round, you don't know if it's a good round or a bad round, like. So I wasn't really sure like what exactly he was doing. I didn't realize it was like to string some more birdies, like and a ace. But yeah, we heard a little bit, but not a ton on the course.
Austin's like, yeah, let me interrupt this ace or this par. Or, sorry, wow, this birdie string with a little ace in here as well.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's a ridiculous ace right there.
yeah, and just of course a really solid way to to finish out the tournament. From 11 on to see what he had done there. But thankfully, as you know, it didn't matter much to you. Again, that huge cushion. All playing into it. The fact that we saw someone from the third card, is the one who got closest to you is incredible. That's a little bit of a story in itself. What I want to know though is, and this is honestly what I was thinking as you were stepping up to your first hole and everything you were doing to get ready for the day, how in the world did you calm yourself? How did you put your head down on your pillow and actually fall asleep on Saturday night? Because I can't even imagine what was racing through your mind.
I'd lie. I'd be lying if I said it didn't take me like an extra hour to fall asleep. I knew I was exhausted from all just the mental focus and just all the people coming at me with messages and the well wishes and the trying to like just like make sure I don't do anything to mess it up. And yeah, it was like it was definitely something really new for me. But like I said, I knew like if I went and did my normal routine, except for usually I like to putt for like an hour or two every night, but um, I was doing commentary at GK, so I didn't really get a chance to that night after the hot round. And so I was kind of feeling a little like self-conscious and guilty about that. So I made sure to go out like a little extra early and get like a half hour of putting in before I kind of did my Jomez interview stuff. And then I think that kind of helped like reassure me, like, okay, I've already felt my stroke. So right when I get to warm ups, like I've already kind of seen the putter go in and felt that out. And I feel like for me, warming up, like finding the putter is like the biggest thing. And then like getting the body loose is important for me too. But I think just like having confidence in your putting stroke, if you don't step on the course with that, it's like probably going to be a long day. And then I use my breath a lot. Like I was really focused on breathing and trying to make sure I had deep breaths, and here and there I'd use the quick double breath up and then let one slow one out, and just like different little breathing techniques to kind of help calm myself, and just keep reminding myself like I'm here for a reason. I've been working really hard the last couple of years, and like even when I've had some really bad showings, I've still believed in myself and known that I could beat anybody whenever I play the way I can. And yeah, just knowing that, like staying patient and staying true to that work ethic and the process that got me here would probably put me in a good spot and at least give me a chance to win.
You,
Go ahead.
You can be honest now. Not that you haven't been all along, but did the thought creep into your mind of, wow, man, I'm going to look like a chump if I cough up 5 strokes or more to someone like Ricky? I mean, did you
Ricky would be the one I
about-
would want to. If there's somebody I can at least be like, well, it was Ricky Wysocki.
Yeah, I mean, but did you think like, oh my God, like I'm going to look like a fool? Like everybody, there's a lot of people, not everybody, there's a lot of people that kind of expect the freshest face,
Yeah.
to maybe falter a little. Did some of those thoughts creep into your mind of like, what you would feel like or what would happen if it did go down that way?
No, yeah, they absolutely did. Like I feel like it was almost more pressure going into the final round, knowing I was like playing with such a lead to where like if I flopped it, it would look like really bad in terms of like my mental fortitude and just like my self confidence and whatnot. So I think I was part of one of the Dixon Facebook groups, and I think like I was on Facebook too much more than I should have been, and saw
You don't
saw
want to
some
see
stuff
those
about
those jerks, yeah.
I was like, all right, Connor,
What
it's
did
time
you see out there? What did you see?
I saw some stuff about like, Connor's sleeping on a 5-stroke lead, and he's never strung together more than 2 good rounds in his PDGA career. And I was just like, bring it. Like I love when people doubt me. It just adds a stick to my fire, and it's already burning pretty bright. So it's just that motivates me, and it's and I also had the tournament director going into the second round. I was warming up, and he Adam Harris, the tournament director, I met him earlier in the year. He was at Belton, Texas. He was down there when we had the big ice storms. He does insurance and stuff, and I let him play a practice round with me when I was getting ready for the Silver Series event there. And he kind of took a liking to me, and he placed me on that feature card. And he said he was hearing some grumblings from, he won't say who, players, obviously, about his picks for the feature card. I think me and Raven were the only first timers, so obviously it had to be towards us. Um, so that kind of fired me up again a little bit too before that second round. Just like, okay, like I'll show you guys. Like I'll make a fan out of you if you need me to. But no, it's kind of one of those like I got a lot of motivation already. So if someone wants to like throw some doubt, then I kind of embrace it and just try to roll with it.
All right. So mental note for the rest of disc golf. To beat Connor, don't piss him off. Like that's not the strategy. Find other ways. But like you said, giving you a little additional motivation is not one of the ways to do it.
I'm a pretty nice guy, but when you poke the lion, sometimes it's like eventually he gets up.
Okay, I like it. Now, let me just quickly publicly say I apologize multiple times throughout the weekend. I think I I may or may not have I think I referenced Jimmy as your tournament director and Adam. So Adam, if you're watching and you were officially on record as
They were
TD.
both. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sorry if I butchered that too.
Well,
but
no.
I'm
And
not
if you
sure.
didn't, I mean, I'm not saying you did that I'm right and you're wrong or either or, but I don't think either way, I personally did not give enough credit out there to Adam. I know Adam and Becky. And so I do want to throw that out there now. I mean, as soon as you said his name, it made me think about him handing off the trophies and everything else. And he is listed as the official tournament director. And I think understandably a lot of people would be like, well, yeah, Jimmy's kind of synonymous with the course, but
Yeah.
all my excuses aside, Adam, thank you for everything you did. And I know I did not give him specifically probably the due props that he deserves. So I just want to throw that out there as well.
I think my biggest surprise this weekend is, I mean, I've heard the name Connor O'Reilly numerous times over the last few months, but I had no clue about your history. I had no clue about where you were from. For whatever reason, I thought, like, with the name Connor O'Reilly playing well on the East Coast in a wooded area, I swear to God, I was thinking, like, he's probably from Boston. Like, that sounds like such a Boston name.
Yeah, and he's friends with Matt Damon, and he goes,
exactly. I like them apples. And then I looked and I'm like, no, he's a Texas guy, and he's doing really well in the woods. So I think that was the biggest shock for me all weekend, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like early on in my disc golf life, I didn't play a ton of wooded courses, where like I kind of thought of myself as an open player, and like I like to think of myself as a balanced player who can do some of all of it. But I feel like the more I've played in the woods, and I feel like just my kind of smooth game and ability to throw the slower discs well, like suits the woods game well, and I do like being kind of forced into throwing specific shapes sometimes, especially if it's like a good repeatable line that plays out fairly, and I feel like Iron Hill does a good job of that. So I feel like the more I've played, the woods have gotten like more comfortable for me.
Well, and some of the criticisms would come in, and I might even be part of this party had I not visited Iron Hill in person a few times now. Some of the questions and or criticisms that come in from the internet, there's apparently like naysayers out there believe that, but a lot of people are like, dude, it just looks like they're throwing into a wall of trees. This is just poke and hope. So I know it's
That's
not.
just a bad camera angle. That's not quite showing you what's happening.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so explain to the world, what this course, how it shapes and what it really means to you and the shots that are required out there.
I mean, off the tee, I feel like every shot is repeatable with a good shot, and it will reward you if you throw a good shot. Some of them are a little more specific than others. I mean, the hole that Austin Hannum ace is probably one of my least favorite in terms of repeatability and actual like shape that you can put at the basket. But for the most part, all the tee shots are pretty clean. I mean, there's maybe 3 holes on the course where like there's a few trees to where like you kind of have to throw your shot and then shave a tree to get to the landing zone. But for the most part, all the tee shots, like you get rewarded for throwing a good straight shot and being able to land it on a flatter plane. Some of the upshots here and there might have some smaller trees as you approach, but they also have tee shots where you can get enough distance off the tee where you have kind of a chip up if you want, to where that makes that gap a little more open if you're willing to get aggressive off the tee.
What I think I just heard you say is that Austin's shot was lucky BS. Is that what you said?
There has to be a little
after
luck
watching
in
it,
that.
he played it pretty clean through there. I was usually kind of shaving it more left through that stand of trees and trying to get up there, but yeah, that one's, I mean, it's definitely not one you expect, and I think it's one of the most specific shapes we've played on a par 3 all year, really.
Yeah. And again, just thinking off the top of my head, maybe hole 2, I feel like there's clearly a path to the basket, and you can throw it, but you got to miss some trees at the end. Is that a fair statement?
I think you only really have to get lucky if you miss that tree in the middle of the fairway that people fly either left or right of. I think if you fly left of that with the right stability of disc, it filters you right through the open, and you're going to have a putt right there through that gap, that second gap that you approach the basket. But I think everything that misses right of that tree in the middle of the fairway gets through. There's that jail side, and it's like, okay, does it get through? Does it not? It's kind of a coin flip. So I think that side of the hole definitely has some of that aspect to it. But all the shots that you see come left of that tree, for the most part, if it's the right stability, that'll kind of push against the hyzer. It's gonna land right in that gap pretty well.
Yeah, and it's tight. It's wooded golf. There like you're saying, there's a fairway. There's a repeatable shot that you have to hit. it's just they're very demanding. And, when the best of the best are on, they're going out there and doing it. If you're rated 920 and you go out there and you hate the course and you think it's terrible, it's honestly, it's your skill set. I mean, you could be having a bad day, but it's your skill set. And that course, I think a lot of people don't realize this. Not every course is made for you. Depending on what your skill level is, depending on how many shots you have in your arsenal, that's a course that's not necessarily designed for you to go out and enjoy it or to score well on. It's kind of my takeaway.
Yeah, and obviously as we grow, like some people have to realize that like they might not like a course because they can't score on it, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad course. It just might not suit where they are in the game.
Yeah, very much so.
My second surprise of the weekend was day 2. I saw you wearing the Albert Tom hat, the bazooka hat. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Day 3,
I wore 1 and 2. Yeah.
Oh, you wore it 1 and 2. I didn't remember 1 particularly. And then day 3, we get the whole one. We get the very first close-up shot of you, and I'm like, oh, he's got his own hat. Look at that. He's got the CO with the
I was
clover
debating.
in it.
I was debating on whether I make that move or not, but I was like, if I'm not going to represent myself, who is? So
that's the time to do it. But I literally was just like, oh, look at this guy. He's got his own merch already.
Yeah, they printed that up on Saturday. They're like, damn, this guy's on a heater. Let's get this printed.
It was still warm.
No, yeah. We did a small like test batch of stuff with OTB a month or 2 ago. They kind of been sitting on for a little bit. So we should have a little easier time selling some merch now, hopefully.
I would hope so. So that is another point that I wanted to touch on, which is earlier in the year, your official hype man in Nate Perkins, very much talking about you and your game and potential sponsors. I'm going to assume you're happy with where you're at in terms of the sponsorship. What was that whole process, and have you had a conversation with Latitude? I think I know that answer, but what have the conversations been like since this all went down?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, anyone who's watching, Latitude did just drop a commemorative disc, a putter for me, the Faith. So if you want to head over there and check those out, they're doing pre-orders and they're gonna make as many as we can sell. So I'm hoping we can push that out and sell a bunch of those. But yeah, I actually have a phone call tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with Dave Berglund, who's the CEO over at Lat. So we're going to talk, and I'm sure we'll talk some stuff about what we're looking to do next year and, what we're looking to do when we possibly re-sign a contract. But I'm also going to let him know that I'll probably be looking to listen to other offers as well, just because I want to make sure I get what's best for me and get the most out of my next year or next couple of years, whatever.
Yeah, so maybe that answers the question. You ultimately signed on for a 1-year deal for the 2021 season. Obviously, you're thinking, "Damn, that was a smart decision. I got 1 year, and I pick up an NT." Obviously, your stock has shot through the roof in the last 72 or 48 hours. But what is it out of any given sponsor, disc manufacturer or otherwise? Maybe I'm jumping the gun by a few months, but just in general, what are the types of things you're looking for when you're looking for support out on the road? What excites you about having a sponsor?
I mean, obviously, just in terms of like financial stability and just like stress reduction on the road is like that salary. Having the proper salary to where you're not stressed too much. You can really just go out and focus on being the best player you can be, not thinking about like having to make putts because you need to be in the green or like anything like that. Just like going out and just like being the best player you can be. For me, especially with where I am right now, trying to like really build a fan base and establish myself in this game. I think being like some media sharing and like working with me on getting a lot of media stuff out and sharing posts and doing advertisements or whatever. I think that's going to be big for me next year. And obviously like Tour Series discs, that type of stuff is definitely big as well.
And what are your sponsors like right now? And I know we kind of saved that for the end, and we'll have another separate shout out for them. But who are your sponsors right now?
As of now, it's just Latitude and OTB. I've had a couple of people kind of come at me recently, but I'm trying to make sure I kind of filter out, which ones are going to be best for me and like obviously I feel like for me, just being patient and wait until I have heard from like a number of people if it comes to a certain offer is always going to be better for me in the long run. I think I'm trying to stay patient for right now and like not really jump on any opportunities unless I really kind of do my research on it and know how good it could be.
And then next year, I mean, you were just talking about, we'll say, some security and stability. Disc golf, I mean, does this answer that question of, hey, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I on the right career path? Is this the right sport for me? Did you squash all of those questions or insecurities, come Sunday afternoon?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've had some like goosebump moments just thinking about that and like how like there's been times this year. I mean, I placed 106 at Ledgestone. Like I've had some tournaments where I didn't play even close to like what I can do. And I've had moments where it's like, okay, like is this like really something that I'm gonna be able to do like how I feel like I can? And I mean, I had a moment like a month ago where I was like, am I gonna have to sign up for a bunch of B tiers when I get back to Texas and try to get a win on the year, so I'm not winless this year? And just to like go from having that thought to have won an elite series and be the highest PDGA number ever to win an elite series is quite the change of events. But I think I've always kind of had that belief in myself, and I've been working towards it. I feel like as hard as anybody this year.
So some people might immediately just associate you and be like, oh, well, yeah, Connor, I mean, he's a Woods player. He won at Iron Hill. How would you rebut that, if at all? What would you say to someone if they kind of pigeonholed you with that statement?
I think I'm just a modern golfer. I feel like I can throw a distance line. I mean, I can throw out to 550 feet if I need to. I can throw even farther, maybe with a little less accuracy. I mean, I can throw side arm and back end. I can throw rollers. I mean, my overhands are maybe the sloppiest part of my game, but for the most part, I don't really have to use overhands, and it's kind of worse on your shoulder, I feel like. So just long term, it doesn't really seem like something I need to master too much. Um, and I think like I feel like I still have a lot of improvement to do on the putting green, especially from circle two. I mean, I made one circle two putt all weekend, and like it's just some all year I haven't really had a lot of great circle two showings, and even my circle one putts I feel like I can clean up. But yeah, no, I feel like so far this year, like I've seen a lot of different holes on all the top courses that we play, and there hasn't really been a hole yet that I don't think I have been able to score on or like had the chance to score on. So I feel like I can kind of do it all. It's just a matter of me putting my mind in the right place.
When it comes to, again, you being a student, probably a little bit more analytical than most, is there anything when you're looking at a UDisc or any other or PDGA statistics, is there anything that you're particularly proud of something that you look at and you're like, yeah, damn, I do that's me? Is there anything in particular, or do you feel like there's room for improvement on everything?
I mean, I feel like to be a top athlete, you always kind of have to seek that bit of improvement on everything. I think the thing I'm the most proud of is just my work ethic and like my self belief that I've kept like believing in myself even when I have played out of the cash and played very disappointing tournament rounds. Yeah, I think just like my work ethic and dedication to myself and like disc golf just gave me like a new life and like a new belief in self and a new work ethic, and it helped me kind of escape the regrets of not pursuing basketball professionally. And always I was kind of living with that ever since I was out of high school. So that was just like it was super liberating for me in that aspect.
What were the conversations like with your parents and or family or anyone come Sunday night or Monday morning? I'm going to assume Sunday night for you, but what were some of those conversations like?
Yeah, I mean, talk to my brothers and my mom, and it's hard for me not to get super choked up talking to my mom. Just like she always kind of, like she saw how passionate I was about it, but I'm sure like the first, maybe 6 months to a year, I told her like, I'm trying to pursue this as my thing. I'm like, I'm gonna make this my job. She's probably like, oh, like it's just another one of those kind of phases. He just kind of getting into it for a little bit, and then like throughout the process of like me sticking with it, I think she just like really started to trust it, and yeah, it's just a special moment to share that with your family, and like for me growing up with a family with a lot of kids and just having the competitive nature. And our mom did so much for us to get us from place to place and make sure that we never had to really worry about anything. So having that support system and being able to share a moment like that with them, and it's definitely special.
So your brother brought you out, whooped you, and now I'm guessing the shoe's on the other foot. Is any fire ignited underneath him? Is he want to find a way to come out and somehow hang with you now yet? Are we going to see him challenge you?
Here and there, I kind of try to prod him about it. It's like he's got a really good innate putting stroke, and if he let me work with his backhand mechanics, he's got a pretty good power sidearm as well. Just because he's a strong guy, but yeah, no, I don't know. I'll have to ask him and see whether he's had those type of thoughts. Right now, he's coaching basketball, but he's been talking with me. He's like prodding me that eventually, like he wants to work for me and help sell merchandise or help me manage my social medias and stuff. So I'm kind of hoping I can get to the point where I could hire him, because I think that would be pretty awesome.
Well, I mean, we think about, in this conversation, it comes up often. You think about the Sexton brothers, the Ulibarri brothers, the families and siblings and whatnot, the Mandahano sisters. I mean, when you think about, these powerhouse teams and or families that go out, and obviously the Jenkins, we can go on and on. I don't want to dive down that, but I mean, if your brother's the one that coaxed you or forced you out onto the course and then whooped you, and now here you are taking down NTs, it just seems like it would make sense for him to come back out and him to pick it up himself.
No, yeah, and I've got 3 younger brothers, so like there's part of me that like has that dream of like, man, it'd be awesome if we all like pursued this and went after this. And like I see the Blanchard brothers, and like you said, the Yulees, and like I see all these families of brothers, and like, man, like one day I'd love to go to a tournament like both my brothers are competing as well. My youngest brother has Downs actually, but he's one of the most high functioning Downs kids I've ever been around, and he's such a sweet kid and a social butterfly. He's got triple the friends any of us ever had, and he's such a jokester, and he's so full of confidence, which is amazing. And
That's
he
awesome.
brings such perspective to my life. Like anytime I feel like I'm having a rough time or whatnot, it's just so easy for me to tap back into that perspective. Like I'm healthy, I'm able-bodied, I can do anything I want to. Like I'm so blessed to be able to say that, and like I think that's such a grounding thing for me.
Yeah, certainly can agree with you there. Well, it's for me, I think about how do you move forward. You use the cliche about like, how high is your ceiling and where do you go from here. You talk about knowing there's still plenty of room for improvement. We have a long grind to still finish out the year. There's still some obviously some very significant events, some of the most favored events that people love playing at MVP. You love thinking ahead to a US DGC and Smuggler's Notch and all of these events. Is this a boost in the arm to push you through? Does this add a whole additional layer of excitement to how you wrap up 2021? Like, what are you thinking about as you're looking ahead, and how do you contain maybe almost too much excitement looking ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I do a good job of kind of just trying to like make sure I get a little better each day, or at least put in that effort. And I think it does add that excitement, and like it gives me that notch on the belt of knowing like, okay, like I've done it now, and like I've shown that I can do it. But I also know that if I lose sight of what got me here, then it's going to be short lived, and that's not what I want. I want to keep making sure that I focus on the process and keep trying to make sure I prepare for each event and have a good game plan, and I'm ready to score. And I mean, a lot of these courses for me, it's the first time I've played them, so I think just getting through this year, trying to finish strong, and then next year I'll have seen all the courses once, and I'll have more financial stability to not be as stressed about like making ends meet, so I can pay off the debt from building up the van, and all the things that go along on a budding touring disc golfer's mind.
So, and I was just joking with the message board saying, all right, you're well-rounded, you're likable, you're skilled, you're relatively young, you're competitive. you got to have some chink in the armor. Like, what's your vice? What do you do? Do you occasionally kick a dog? Like, what? So there's got to be something. Wow. There's got to be something when we're not watching and the world doesn't know, or maybe you have a dirty little secret that you can share. Where do you somehow let somebody down? Give us anything that somebody be like,
you sound like my girlfriend now. She tells me that there's nothing wrong with me, and she thinks that I'm a serial killer. But no, we'll leave that out.
She's like, you're too good to be true. Oh, you're the love of my life. No, so but come on, there has to be something.
Or let's just ask, what's your worst vice on tour? What's the one thing that you're like, Dairy Queen worst vice, or whatever?
Yeah, my worst vice is sugar in my diet. I do a pretty good job. With everything else. I've cut beer out of my diet since earlier in the season. I would have one here and there, but since California, I think I've had two. So I've really tried to kind of get rid of that, knowing that there's so many competitors nowadays, so many athletes coming into the game, and like I want to separate myself like any way I can and make sure my body has ample time to recover at its best. And I think for me, if I could cut out like my sweets intake by half or something, like that would be, I think, good for just like body inflammation. And I think just having that self-control like gives you just one more layer of trust in your brain. So I think that's something for me. I'm going to try to put some more focus into going forward and be a little better about. But at the same time, like I try to kind of find the balance of like, I push myself pretty hard, so I try to give myself a treat here and there and like make sure I'm enjoying life as well, not just driving myself into the ground, because I think it can be easy to do that sometimes as an athlete.
What's your sweet of choice? Like you walk into a gas station and you're like, I could really go for something sugary or whatever. Like, are you leaning more towards like those sugar worms? Are you going towards
no? I'm not I'm not one of those like fake sugar candy guys. Like I could here and there, I could eat like one or two of them, but they just like, I'm really more of like a chocolate person, or like ice cream was a huge vice for me. Really, I mean, how far now? Like almost 2 years ago now, I think I was like 30 pounds heavier than I am right now, and I would probably eat like 4 or 5 pints of Ben and Jerry's a week. And then I played a beach here in Texas and met Ezra Aderhold for the first time, and I was like, I beat him in the beach here, but it was like I could see what he was doing, and I was like, okay, this is the future of the game right here, and like I better make some changes if I want to be competing with that.
Wow. Okay. So a chocolate bar. So yeah, you are a monster.
Yeah, no.
You are definitely
for
a
me,
monster.
No, yeah. Cookies and ice cream. Cookies and ice cream for me. Like, if I could have like a delicious like custom made ice cream sandwich, like that's probably like my perfect mix of like my indulgence. But yeah, I'm a sweets monster. So there you go. There's my life. I'm terrible.
Just a monster. I mean, just overall, I'm clearly a monster. I mean, now tell me, there's got to be a song or a group that you feel like you shouldn't be watching or listening to, or a show that you occasionally binge, and anything else other than you having a little Ben and Jerry's.
He watches too much
time.
Nova. That's the problem.
I will say I did unnecessarily give some attitude to a New Jersey toll worker the other night. I was a little overwhelmed.
Okay.
Missed an exit. Had to pay like $16.30. I'm trying to go do the GK coverage, but I'm in New Jersey. I missed an exit, and I have to drive another 15 miles just to turn around. And they're gonna tax me on that. And I was just like, I had all the messages coming in. I was just like so overwhelmed. And I was
Don't you know who I am? I'm trying to win this damn tournament.
I had $15 and it was $16.30. And I was like, you can't just take my $15. And then she was like, no. And I was like, wow. I was like, freaking New Jersey. And then like, as I was driving off, I was like, I hope y'all use it to fix all these potholes out here. And just like, I kind of gave her some attitude. And then I felt so bad after. I was like, why would I do that? Like, why?
Let me tell you the trips I've been on with this guy. There's not a toll worker he hasn't harassed.
Usually it's in good-natured fun, but yes. Wow. All right. I mean, well, that's especially frustrating when you're on like. you made a quick turnaround and then you're paying double because you like literally missed one exit. It'd be one thing if you travel across the state and you're like, oh, I got to pay this again. But like you miss an exit and then all of a sudden you got to turn around and you're like, oh, seriously, that mistake just cost me, $15 or something.
The cherry on top was like when I made the quick exit and like the U-turn, one of my candles in the van fell and shattered. So there's glass everywhere. And it was like, oh, this is going great right now. Like, oh, I was like, why am I so stressed? I just won my first NT. Like, what's going on right now? I don't even know. Like, I should not be stressed right now. I should be extremely happy. But it was just so much coming at me.
Well, that's because you're thinking, damn it, I should have a driver already. I should be in a bigger vehicle.
Scout Recycler on the board says, yeah, you did notice that Ricky was getting the bigger cheers than you were. Most of the.
Oh. I guess they heard me talking about that, but no, it's something that I've noticed all year a little bit. Obviously, when you're an unproven player, people and like Ricky's earned that. He's been top competitor for a long time now, and he's a great guy, and he's fun to play against. He's personable, and for me though, it's like a lot of time. I had a lot of park jobs this weekend, and I feel like you tap in a park job and people forget all of a sudden that you just threw a great shot, and it's like, come on guys, like. I did that really well. I mean, so well I didn't have to putt, and so I had a number of those throughout the weekend, and then just just waiting for like, every time I would do something on an equal plane to Ricky. Just you could just feel the double boost in decibels for his cheers, and that's fine. But that kind of fires me up. It's like, all right, I wanna make them do that for me too. So, I kind of like that.
That's why you used to have to be like, was it Raven that just cheered like every time you put a putt in? He thanked the crowd and looked around. And he was
Raven's one of the most animated people I've played with for sure. I actually did commentary on 2 of his rounds, and it was like I almost felt like I didn't need to say anything because he was just he was reacting to all of his shots. Like,
he talks. He talks on the course.
Yeah, he does.
That was
I enjoy his energy.
Yeah, he's got a great energy. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you've said it perfectly. Ricky has earned that. He's a 2-time world champ. He's won a billion other tournaments, obviously very successful, and he always remains very personable, win, lose, or otherwise, at events. And that's a lot of that, of course, being longevity. But I'll say I notice that all the time. There is this funniness when anyone sometimes will throw a shot. They may park it, but somebody made a 28-footer for birdie, but no one's clapping on the 5-foot tap in for birdie. It feels different because, like you said, they've almost forgotten like how good your shot initially was.
Well, and at Iron Hill, it's hard to see the tee. It's hard to see the basket from the tee. So you don't even, it looks like a good shot. You could be 5 feet, you could be 25 feet, and you might not know from the tee.
And after my first time really playing in front of a gallery this weekend, I realized like a lot of times they're just clapping because they like the player. Like the shot could hit a tree 200 feet down the fairway, but they're still going to be half of them hitting a little clap because it's just.
Well, like you said, you made a ton of new fans. I think anyone that already knows you enjoys your company and your aura and your demeanor and everything. But you certainly gained a lot of new fans, and I think you've really opened the eyes to a lot of people in everything you said about being the highest PDGA number to win and someone that's dedicated themselves to the game. You're a great test case. Like you just proved to everybody that, hey, hard work, dedication, learning the game, putting in some time. You're not going to win every single weekend, but you can go out and you can get it done. And you did it on such an incredibly challenging track. I mean, you're just such a proof of concept in so many ways.
Yeah, and I feel like a huge something that's been like very satisfactory for me over the last couple of days is to like, and hearing Germ and Yuli talk about it on the Jomez coverage, just talking about how like I almost breathed some life into some of the guys who've been out here grinding and like haven't had the success and haven't felt that. And like, there's a lot of really good players between 10-10 and 10-20, 10-25 rated who like haven't really had the year they've wanted, and a lot of them are probably maybe questioning, like, am I doing the right things? And I think just to feel some of that energy from a couple of those guys, and like see that like I kind of gave some guys hope. I feel like that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I would totally echo that. I think about again, it's like you just showed so many that it can be anybody's weekend, and that when you play great golf, sometimes you just may be uncatchable. And when you have the likes of a Ricky Wysocki and others, and Austin Hannum, who rings up goes like 100 under in the last few holes, still can't catch you. I mean, that speaks so much to everything that you put in to work up that lead. And I remember just thinking on both Saturday night and Sunday morning as we were doing the commentary leading into watching you, just thinking, who in the world gets a 5-stroke advantage on this course? I mean, that in itself, I felt like was such an incredible feat, because to see something like that unfold is just, you wouldn't expect it at a course or on a track like that.
Yeah, and for me, like I said, I wasn't really looking too much at the scores during the second round, but I guess I did notice that like before we even got to the back nine, we had like 3 or 4 of the Disc Golf Network cameras on us, and I was like, okay, I know they don't have that many cameras, and I know that the majority are on us now, and so I knew I was kind of pacing the card, so it was one of those days where like I knew I was playing well, but like when I actually when I got to like when I tapped in on the final hole and Nate was like, dude, you have a 5-stroke leader, and I was just like, what? Like, no, I don't. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, are you messing with me? Like 5 strokes? Like, so that was kind of like a whoa. That was definitely kind of a whoa moment, especially in a round where I missed a birdie from about 18 feet on hole 2, and then I missed a par from about 18 feet on hole 3 back to back to start that round. So it was like, okay, it didn't. I mean, I still had some pretty easy mistakes during that 11 down.
Wow. And if I recall, I don't even think we saw those. I don't think we had cameras on you at that point yet, did we?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't recall. I don't even think
was.
we did, so they didn't register for me.
It might have only been 1 or something, but I don't think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and if so, we weren't necessarily like highlighting the fact that you had just taken a par or a bogey or whatever.
Well, I'm glad I glossed y'all over. If not, if y'all did see it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, we'll start to wrap it up, but I want to touch on again. I saw the disc release, but give everybody the details, how they can support you through that, and just in general, shout out your sponsors and tell us how all of us can go out and support you more.
Yeah, so check out that disc release on the Latitude 64 store. Go to their shop page and you'll see it at the top there. The link's also in my Instagram bio right now. OTB discs, we're working on some artwork with Manny Trujillo right now. We should be getting hopefully a custom run of maybe a special blend of plastic. I'm not sure what disc yet, or if it's going to be multiple discs. I should kind of have some more of those details tomorrow. But those will be on the OTB site, and you'll be able to support me there. I think we're going to get another batch of merchandise, clothing and hats and stuff in there as well. So those are a lot of the ways that you can financially support me. And then just following me on Instagram or Facebook, and making sure just to follow my journey is much appreciated.
Yeah, I'll put it in for anyone that does want to click on it. I'm going to put it right into the live chat on YouTube right now. It's Instagram.com/Connor O'Reilly 99648. So real quick before we let you go, then you are just barely under that 100,000 mark. It's crazy where we're seeing these milestones hit, for the PDGA and for our players. But you're still a 5-digiter, not far off from me and John Evie at 5 digits.
No, I didn't realize how big of a deal the 100K was. I didn't realize you would get so much free stuff, so I should have waited a day or two. But
so with 99,648, do you did you sign yourself up for the PDGA? Did you get it as a Christmas gift? Did your brother do it? Like how did that come about?
No, yeah, I signed myself up for. I think I played 2 events before I signed up, and I realized like, okay, I'm gonna keep playing events, and if I play more than I think 5 a year as an amateur, yeah. it's gonna pay. So it's like, okay, I'm definitely gonna play that. So after I played 2, then I was like, oh, I want a rating, and I actually I'll expose myself. Maybe here's that evil heart that you're looking for, but I purposely left the first event that I played off of my sheet, because I averaged, I think, like 980 something or 990 something, and my first rating would have been below 900, but instead it was like 915, since I only put the better of the 2 on there. Since they let you report which one. So it was like, I will say my first rating should have been sub 900 if I would have honestly done it. So there's my chink.
Oh, you evil monster again. You were probably eating ice cream while you were filling it out even too. You're like, oh, these suckers aren't going to know about that terrible weekend.
Ben and Jerry's, Netflix and chilled, I'd say probably.
All right, man. Well, we just can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. I know we realize you're getting probably pulled in a million directions. Of course, Tuesday nights we love having our champions, and we couldn't pass up the opportunity to talk to you tonight. And we're hoping this is far from the last time. And if you keep doing the things you did this last weekend, you're going to need a permanent segment here with the way you performed. It was incredible to watch. It was incredible to watch live. You know, we're so honored to be able to do what we do on the live network as well, to see it unfold in real time. And it's something that, I know it's a milestone in your career, but things like this are also milestones in live broadcasting and as a broadcaster. It's incredible to watch. So congratulations, and you couldn't be a nicer guy to have it happen to. So best of luck this weekend at MVP.
Thanks, you guys. I mean, yeah, I've always wanted to be on the show, so it's an honor to finally make my first appearance. And yeah, like you said, I hope there's many more to come.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to it.
I'm sure there is.
We'll see you I'll see you in just a couple of days over there at MVP. Looking forward to that and the rest of this year. And again, hopefully we'll be talking to you again on another Tuesday night. Have a good night. Get some rest. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Safe travels out here, Terry. Thanks for having me, Johnny. And
of course.
Smashies, I appreciate you guys.
All right. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Connor.
All right, Connor O'Reilly.
Gonna go throw down a pint of ice cream now.
Yeah, he is. Like, time to celebrate. All right. He's no, really do thank him so much. Not only was that a lengthy chat, but I know, of course, he's on the East Coast, and
it's much later there, yeah.
So even an hour later, but so good to get to know him a little bit more. I've seen him a number of times out there on the course. A lot of people, kind of associate him and his journey that Nate Perkins talked about earlier in the year. So to see him get picked up and then play a number of events, I think one of the most powerful statements, as he said, though, is just a few weeks ago playing Ledgestone, struggling, not having a stellar weekend or performance there, but then to come to this incredibly demanding and challenging course. Like, you could have a good hole, you could have a good front nine, you could maybe even squeak out like kind of a semi-greasy or lucky round if things are going really well for you on a course like that, maybe. But to be on top of the podium after 3 rounds, well, the best of the best are out there chasing you. With all of the pressures on him, I can't say it enough about how cool it is to see him
excel like he did.
Yeah, just to see him perform and like he said, make some new fans, but also
I can't imagine what his Instagram is doing or his social medias right now.
Yeah, plenty of people getting at him, and they should be. And as he said, go out and support him. Find it on the Latitude site. You can pick up some of the discs, and then also one of his additional sponsors in OTB. Make sure you check them out. Like he said, Manny's working on a commemorative stamp, so it'll be pretty cool to see that out and released. So, man, I just kind of as a quick funny side note, who will be our first 100,000 plus champion on an Elite Series event? I mean, and even as I'm saying that, I have to think, okay, well, who could that even be? I mean, obviously there's names out there, but
Gavin, like a Gavin Burr.
No, Gavin. Oh, he's not? He's got to be sub 100,000. He was winning Junior Worlds 3 years ago.
That's right.
So he's got to be. I mean, I may have to
Gannon, by the way, not Gavin.
Yeah, I was thinking Gavin Rathbun. I'm like, no, he's way sub.
I knew Gavin was, but not. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, right away.
Yeah. Now I do want to quickly look and see like who. I don't know who potentially, but yeah, like, maybe the better question is who is over 100,000 this weekend? Yeah, and I look at some of those names. It might be a little while. So, yeah. Some of the names that another young superstar that I saw take second at the NADGT finale a couple years ago to Kyle Klein. Jonathan Nicholson, he's a gentleman that jumps out in terms of players that are just, this is my stat here, as players that are over 100,000 that were at the Delaware Disc Golf Challenge. Jonathan Nicholson is your highest rated player that was over 100,000, and he's rated 1010. Sam Drummond is rated 1,001, and then Joey Tamale, who we saw out there caddying for Heather Young, he's rated 989. So of that event, pretty incredible.
I mean, if we're looking at plus 100,000, we're looking
plus
at
100,000.
MVP Ezra right now is 1024 rated, and his number is 121715. So
he's another person you could pick out of you could put into the hat and say, okay, he's definitely a contender in that conversation.
We should have
some kind of side pool. I like where you're going with this.
Yeah, we should have somebody.
And the winner gets ice cream. No. I blame Connor. I mean, I blame all of my weight problems and my lack of discipline on Connor.
Maybe you need to run into Ezra.
Oh,
I mean, he'd probably run you over, but
yeah, that's a good call. All right, well, nonetheless, congratulations, of course. Why don't you name off, let's say, the top 4 or 5 men, and then we'll also recap what we saw on the FPO side.
All the guys that Connor put the smackdown on.
Yeah, they are on his BL, as I like to call it.
First and foremost, Austin Hannum.
Yep.
Couldn't catch him, could you, Austin?
Nope.
even if you went birdie, ace, birdie to finish out. What a great second half of that round. On the side of the course that is arguably tougher than the front half. Ricky Wysocki tied for second place with Austin. In a fourth place tie, Kelvin Heimberg and Andrew Marweed. Now, Andrew's had a great run of events over the last month and a half. So, obviously, if you want to know more about Andrew, you can go back to our podcast a few weeks ago when he was our guest. Sixth place, another guy who's been pretty solid lately, Matthew Oram, on there. Tied with Matty O was a Corey Ellis. And then tied for eighth, two-way tie, was Joel Freeman and Raven Newsom. So those are your MPO top 10 winners.
All right, let's move over to the FPO action, and what a smackdown!
And it was
seriously,
it was Connor had the second round smackdown, just passed the baton to Kat for that third round because she played as good a golf from almost any player I've ever seen that particular round. It was awesome to watch. So Katrina Allen by 10 strokes over Sarah Hokum. I think we looked, it was like a 10-20 rated round. I don't know what
10-30 I think is what ultimately.
Okay, it finalized at. Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly where it was sitting at that point.
Let me just for posterity. 1030 is what it is showing currently on the PDGA website. So a 976, a 950, and a 1030 to complete the tournament. Go ahead.
That's the way to end it. I mean, just stepping on the throats of your competitors. Second place, Sarah Hokum at 4 under par. Third place, Holly Finley at 2 under par. Fourth place, shooting 4 under that second round to jump up 7 spots, Ellen Widboom. So Ellen was having herself around that final day. Fifth place, Heather Young. Sixth place, Kona Panis. Seventh place, Jessica Weiss. So congratulations to all the FPO competitors who cashed and played well. But again, I don't care who you are. You weren't catching Kat.
No, and I mean, and it's crazy because you look at second place Ian Hokum in this case, and she shoots a 5 under, which is the best round that the tournament had seen up into that point. Her 5 under is better than anyone in round 1 or round 2, including Kat's rounds. And her 5 under is still only half as good as what Kat put together during that final round, which just tells you how impactful and how serious that final round really was for Katrina. I mean, besides the obvious win, just like the sheer awesomeness of it.
I'm not taking anything away from Kat's round, but like every drive she threw looked great. But then on top of that, like the extra little kicks, like, oh, she's going to be 5 feet up. Nope, she's going to be right in the center of the fairway. It was her day. And props to her for taking total advantage of that.
Yeah, and I couldn't echo that more. Of course, there's no taking away from it. But when things are going your way, they really were going her way. And she was going to win. She was performing well. Yeah. Even when something didn't go her way and she went all the way down the hill on 13 and then cans the 60-foot uphill lunging, toss in. And it's like, yes, everything was coming up roses for Kat. And so just incredible. And I mean, let's be fair. Mm-hmm. Some days that's just how it happens. It's like you go to the blackjack table and you hit, you win 9 hands and then you hit blackjack at the end. Like, okay, I mean, you just roll with it. That's all you can do with it, right? I mean, you just smile and enjoy the ride. And that's, yeah. So congratulations to Kat. How funny was it that we saw that she had such a great drive, specifically on 15? Kind of just the thought, it hadn't fully set in for everybody. Hannum's ace at that point, it was obviously a murmur. It was out there that it had happened. We hadn't seen it yet, but just so incredible. I was going to make the joke, and I didn't want to be taken wrong. Not that it still couldn't be here, but whatever those two did on Saturday night, they should do every night. Maybe that was mini golf. Maybe that was ketchup on the ribeye. I don't know. I don't care what it was. Whatever they did Saturday night
day for them, or Sunday morning,
What did
they have for breakfast?
Whatever, exactly. In any capacity, whatever that was, I would copy and paste it,
if at all possible.
So, I mean, maybe they switched socks on one another and said, hey, how about I wear your socks and you wear mine today? I don't know what they did.
Slipped on opposite sides of the bed.
Sure. Who knows? But nonetheless, incredible effort. Congratulations to them.
We didn't really have a lot of other big events this weekend on this side of the ocean. There was a few over in Europe. There was a big event in Finland. It was a Masters event, and Heikki Sananen wins that in Pro Masters. And in Pro Masters Women 40+, Nina Rajala. That's what I'm going with, and that's all I'm going to pronounce for them. Then we go over to Sweden, where they have the Swedish Championships, where Linus Karlsson wins that in Open, and in Open Women, Sophie Bjorlike. I'm going. So,
I'm going with what you said.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you are. So, that's it. That's what we had. I mean, there was the Minnesota AM Championships.
Ooh, let's not spoil that though. I've got coverage.
You've got coverage. There's the Minnesota AM, and I would feel bad talking about AMs without talking about all of them. So wait for that coverage to come out in the off season,
or when it gets when things get all fully put together.
Down.
Big shout out, my buddy Dustin worked with me, and then the TD and Tom Marcus ran over, captured some action, all of the action of rounds 2 and 3. I think they played 3 total rounds. He captured rounds 2 and 3, 18-hole and 27-hole rounds, and we'll get that put together and released for you. So an event actually that I've my channel's had quite a few times, and Smashbox back in 2014. Live. We were live with that event. So if you don't think we love AMs, well, you're wrong, because we do. Jay Santos, again, jumping in on the super chat. Thank you so much, Jay. He says, thanks, guys. Always entertaining. Some nights more than others. Keep grinding.
You're not wrong.
You know what? Here's what I would say is any night, if we're entertaining, should be considered a win. I don't know about some. I'd say any. So we'll take it, Jay. Thank you. Yeah. Right. All right. I did.
Yeah.
I was going to start a list, and maybe some incredible smashy that's on top of this could do this in the future. But one thing that hit me was, I'm going to click on. I'm going to cheat a little bit. One thing that is now ramping up, maybe a little bit more than ever, is people gaining their spots to the USDGC, and also gaining their way to the Throw Pink Women's Championships as well. So I do want to quickly throw out that this weekend, earning their spots, Michael Johansson, Gavin Babcock, Alden Harris, Dylan Horst, and Zach Melton. So just wanted to throw that in there. Congratulations to all of them for earning their road to the U.S. Championship, as it says, at the Delaware Disc Golf Challenge. And then also from the USDGC side, Evan Scott. I feel like we talked about this or danced around this a week or two ago, or maybe I said it elsewhere. Often they have invited the amateur world champion to come play at the USDGC. Maybe or maybe not 1 or 2 years that offer wasn't extended, but I feel like more often than not it has been over the 21 or 22 years in existence. So Evan Scott has earned his way. So congratulations to Evan as well. I'm going to double check. I want to get the U.S. women's as well. Throw Pink Championships. Here it is. Sorry, I wanted to click on it, make sure that I could find it. Earning their way on the women's side to the Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championships, also in Rock Hill, Alex Benson and Michelle Frazier. So congratulations to the two of them for their play at Delaware. And the AM World winner on the FA1 side, Allie Smith, also earned her spot due to her AM World Championship title. So congratulations to all of them. Again, it's important all year long. People are super excited. You want to be earning your spot. You want to be securing it, so maybe you're not stressing out later on in the year, thinking about how you're going to get there to play or what it's going to look like. But as we get that much tighter and closer to the event, I certainly want to try and bring those up as much as I can. There was some other news quickly, Johnny, that I wanted to talk about.
Please do.
It was along those lines, and now it's not. Oh, here it is. Also posted, and I'm not doing a lot of heavy-hitting research. This is just off their Instagram feed, but I did see it. USDGC this year, you know how you can qualify on Monday? You know any details to that?
My understanding is there is qualifying Monday, but there is no restarting. So does that mean that you get one opportunity at it, and that's it? Or does that mean that you can do... I mean... No restarting means that you get one shot at it, right?
One shot. The moment you own it. Yeah, one opportunity. We can't say anymore because otherwise we'll get flagged.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because M is usually listening and we don't want him coming after us. But yeah, it says October 4th, no restarts. You're in the Winthrop Arena now, and this is Monday qualifying for the USDGC.
Now, do you think that is because of the sheer amount of people that are going to try to qualify? I mean, if we're assuming disc golf is a number times larger than it was 2 years ago or even a year ago, that they're expecting some wait lists for even maybe trying to qualify that day?
It could be that, or it could be so, very much so, and we could reach out to a representative, but it could be everything you just said, that they're just worried about sheer amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
It also could be that you're just putting that much more pressure on the one shot you've given it. Mm-hmm. I think that has something to do with it. Like, hey, if you take a triple bogey on hole 5, like, you keep playing or you quit, but you're not getting, you don't have that, we'll say, safety blanket or that possibility of going back and restarting. That can't even be in your mind. So in some ways, it might help some people, and in other ways, obviously, it's going to enhance the pressure, or tighten the screw, so to speak. So I think there's an element to that. I think it could be timing. I just think overall, it's probably strategy for the event of worrying about how many people will do it, and then just that awkwardness of like, well, somebody posts a score, and then they go back out because they want to possibly post a better score. There's a lot of factors to it.
The Throw Pink, people Do you get to qualify for throw pink as well?
I am uncertain to that. I cannot answer that. I know that is obviously
Terry, I
women
rely on you for your certainty.
because
that could be.
Then you're going to be disappointed as usual,
Well, yeah.
as so many other people I know.
That could be part of it as well. If you're expecting that maybe some women are going to try to qualify as well for throw pink, that would throw a wrench into timing where even more people are going to try.
Yeah, and I don't see that listed there. That's not to say it's not happening. Then they also, just to kind of throw this back for a moment, what they used to do for a number of years was you paid $50 for your first opportunity at it. If you wanted to play another round or you needed to restart or whatever the situation was, I believe it was then $25 every time after that. So you could, in theory, pay the $50, bail out on hole 3 because you triple bogeyed, and then you could do it again and bail out on hole 5, or at whatever point you could bail out, and every time you came back up to the top to restart, you were paying another $25. I mean, there's probably a little logistical pain to doing it all that way too, and figuring those types of things out.
You get your tee time, you get your start time, you get a competitor you're probably playing with, or maybe 2 or 3, depending on the size, and you just go out and play.
Yeah, I feel like it also eliminates someone waiting around and being like, well, it's 3:00. Can I go back out yet? Well, no, it's 3:02 and we're waiting on one more person to get here. It's like, like you said, you get your tee time, you go play. That's the way it is. I am also clicking on the registration for the for the throw pink, which starts tomorrow, Wednesday. It says that is available starting at 3 p.m. Eastern.
So if there's open registration, there's no qualifying then?
Well, it says join blah, blah, blah. Limited number of spots. Registration opens on a PDGA tiered basis. Tap on the link in the bio to find out more. So you're right. There may not be... I take that back. Not necessarily. You could restrict it to 5 open spots and then say, hey, if you didn't get in, you have a chance to qualify and get in. That doesn't seem like something that they would do particularly, but not yet, at least, I believe. Okay. Sarah Nicholson, we know you're out there. We know you have all the answers. We know you're probably about to fall asleep, but if you have any answers, put them in the chat for us.
She's asleep a while ago.
No, she's not. She's listening. She threatened to not listen live tonight, but I know she is.
Oh, yes. Someone brought up on the board, or Ray Zerhausen brought up about Big Germ's injury. He withdrew from Delaware with what could possibly be some sort of knee injury, like a meniscus tear, pull, or I don't know,
old age-ish,
missing kneecap. I don't know. His leg bends the other way now. Don't know if that's good or not. So we'll see. Best wishes to Big Germ. Hopefully, it's nothing serious and he can get back out on the course in a couple weeks, or at worst case, maybe next season we see him back out on the course. So, best wishes to Big Germ.
All right, and real quickly, Sarah is out on the board. Glad to see you, Sarah. She said no qualifying for the women.
Not this year.
Hopefully, not this year. Hopefully next year.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Like next year, I've gone on record to say that I know it's not a major this year. They're treating it like a major, and I would be more than surprised if it didn't get a major tier next year. That just seems to be the compass. That's where the compass is pointing, is towards not towards N for North, but M for major.
Oh, so. What about S for South Carolina?
No, because that's SC.
Oh,
sorry, Terry.
Starts with S. So what they're doing, and once I clicked on it, I can also see the 1st through the 7th, 920 and above are eligible. The 8th through the 14th, 900 and above. The 15th through the 7th through the 15th, 880, and then 850 and above. There are 40 spots available. Okay, so there you go. We've done our part, giving you as much info as we can here. So hopefully the women that have become eligible are signed up and ready to go. All right. So that's what I wanted to do. Maybe over the next month, I'll continue to do my best to make note of both the throw pink and the USDGC situations. And I'm not talking about Mike from Rhode Island.
Oh, geez.
From Jersey.
Please stop. The one thing that we neglected to talk about last week was the PDGA and WFDF kind of burying the hatchet, as they say, and working together again. And for those of you that don't know what the WFDF is, it's the World Flying Disc Federation. It is the international flying disc committee, basically, as opposed to the PDGA, which basically focuses on disc golf. So WFDF focuses on almost all frisbee-related sports, disc throwing-related sports. So that would be, ultimate, guts, DDC, freestyle. If there's a frisbee or disc competition, they've got their hands in it.
And then also the overseer and kind of the official world record. What's the word I'm looking for? Requirements and world record, recognized world record.
Mm-hmm.
Not details. Whatever I'm trying to, sanctioning, so to speak. So someone could say, oh, hey, Garrett Gerthy, we'll say, great example, Garrett Gerthy at the World Championships during the distance competition through 1,200 feet. But if it didn't meet certain guidelines and requirements and restrictions by WFDF, it may not have been an official WFDF recognized world record. So so there is a difference, and sometimes that's when you see, I think way back to 2008, because we're old, the 2008 World Championships, the distance competition, so to speak, was throwing down a hill, in which players could throw significantly farther because of it did not meet the requirements, nor was it sanctioned or overseen by the official WFDF record book, so to speak. So that's where sometimes you may see a distance or something incredible happen that may or may not be kind of recognized in that fashion, but it's worth noting. Governing body, yeah, that's another good word that I wanted to put it out there. Records, stuff, words.
Sure.
All right, is that everything that we need to capture? The National Tour, second to last event this year. It kept throwing me off when we were saying it was the fourth one, and there's only going to be 5, and then it finally hit me, because I'm sometimes a little not
slow,
smart, that we did not have Beaver State Fling in any capacity this year. Of course, that being usually a staple on the national tour. So not seeing or having that, it was like, wow, just 5 national tours. The national tour concludes at the Music City Open. That's going to be, I think I saw 550 people are registered for it. It's currently listed as, well, it's not currently, I don't want to make it sound like it's going to change. It has been brought to everyone's attention for sure that it is a 4-round tournament with a cut happening after the 3rd round.
2 different courses.
Yes, and it's going to be held at 2 different courses. This is all MPO, FPO conversation. I don't know about any of the other amateur details, so don't ask me those. But there is a cut after the 3rd round, and that will be on the MPO and FPO side, and probably other details. So, I don't think I'm brilliant by saying this or going out on too far of a limb. There's a chance, if rumors that circle around the players and other places, there's a chance this might be the last go of a national tour. Or if not the last go, it might be one of the last goes at a national tour as we see and know it today.
I was thinking,
does that rumor sound remotely accurate to you?
It sounds like a rumor I've heard, or that's been floated around, that the national tour may be on its way out, or I guess that's on its way out is a bad way to put it, maybe being directed by the Disc Golf Pro Tour next year. I don't know for sure. I don't know if any final decisions have been made, but those are the things that people are talking about. And I was hoping maybe we should try to talk Stevie Rico into going and try to win
He's
Music
got to
City.
win
The first, win
and
the
win
last.
the last.
I mean,
Yes.
that's what has to happen.
That would be a good call.
So, but yeah, so this could be, if you care about those kind of things, you know, if you've been in the sport a while, maybe the end of a 20+ year run for tour events.
Yeah, and to be 100% perfectly clear, none of these decisions, thoughts, rumors, all well above our pay grade. We have absolutely no confirmation of any given situation one way or another. I'm not going to say we're the last to know, but we're not always in the know.
We're not necessarily the first, you know.
And it's funny to hear other players have these types of conversations, and then from a nostalgic or a historical point of view, I look at someone like a Conor O'Reilly winning this event, that seeing that might be the last time it's deemed an NT. Now, we've all adopted Elite Series as a phrase. We all know that winning an event like Iron Hill obviously carries a ton of honor and prestige, as does now winning a Disc Golf Pro Tour, and that's been an evolution. That's not disparaging in any way, shape, or form. It very much started as, yeah, these Pro Tours are great, but the National Tour is where it's at, and the players and the tours have evolved to a point where there is clearly a ton of effort put into the National Tour. There's a ton of effort put into the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and winning either of them on either tour right now is insanely prestigious and carries a great amount of weight and significance. The question is there a way that they become a little bit more, even more so in sync? Yeah, and I guess that's something that we'll have to continue to watch unfold and or at least have those conversations. I'll say this, in Steve Dodge's vision 5 or 6 years ago, I think that was very much the case of seeing that let's create a unified tour that's sustainable, that makes sense both from the tour's perspective as well as from a player perspective. Both of them need to be successful in order for it to carry forward. And the National Tour has been supported by the PDGA and in an incredible amount week in and week out. I don't know that it is sustainable as a standalone or is sustainable financially without just infusing a ton of additional money and resources into it. And that's where the Pro Tour says, hey, that's kind of what we're honing in on.
And I saw some people online saying, they're worried or they're hesitant about if something like this were to happen, that what happens if the DGPT folds up? What happens if it goes away? Okay. And I kind of just said, if that did happen, and anything's possible, the PDGA could easily just spin up the NTs again. I mean, it's really, the PDGA doesn't run the events. They pick, some bigger events, and they designate them as national tours. They give them support in not only
financial and manpower and personnel and everything else.
I was going to say labor and finances, and to help boost that. Now, if for some reason the Pro Tour went away and things didn't, someone made 100 bad business decisions in a very short period of time, the PDGA would just be like, all right, let's roll it up again. Let's start it up again.
Or at that point, because a blueprint has been now put together and a proof of concept has also been, for the most part, shown, that's not to say another entity couldn't step into the role. And I'm not trying to downplay the efforts by any means, saying, well, it'd be so easy. Some guys from the PGA, tour would just then slide on in, but it's also not entirely crazy because of the hard work, because of the groundwork.
You're starting your own tour, aren't you?
That's been
Terry Miller. You are starting your own. This is how you're breaking it to the world. You are starting the Terry Miller Tour, the TMT.
No, I'm not saying that I'm not. So, point is, again, every single weekend, more and more bricks get laid, and the foundation is there. There's now a path. It's not 100% successful yet, and it's not 100% perfect by any means, but we're continuing to see these improvements, and it's becoming more and more of a viable business model that has a business plan that I think even more people could pick up and run with hurdles and obstacles, of course, but it could be done. So I'm trying to think what I will name my tour.
Well, everyone said, yeah,
I know. I was thinking
the TMNT, the Terry Miller National Tour, just like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean,
yeah, I mean, there's
I'm a
all
little
that
disappointed.
trademarking is probably super available. I'm going to reach out to Sunstein and see if they can help me secure some of that.
I'm sure they can.
Yeah, those are my peeps over there. So Sunstein, just wait for my call. All right, let's close this out as a regular show. I think that we are ready to do so. We have to thank our incredible guest, our national tour winner, and Connor O'Reilly.
The perfect
thank you,
Connor O'Reilly.
Yes, thank you. That guy. People are going to be like, dang, again, I'm going to find a reason to dislike him just because it's human nature. We've got to find something.
Toll workers don't like him.
Yes. He's got a little Adam Sandler in him, maybe. Was it Toll Booth Willie? Was that the... Anyway.
I think so.
All right. You got to be super old to catch some of those references.
Kids ask your
parents. Just like us. Exactly. So huge shout out to Connor. Congratulations, man. It was really... Honestly, it was fun to watch, and it was an honor that we got to have a little tiny role in the world seeing that firsthand. Huge shout out to Katrina Allen. We're not taking anything away from your dominance and your performance, Kat, but you win like a lot. So, but nonetheless, it was awesome to see you dominate and to see you play the way that we know her and other golfers can play, and to put it all together and just destroy a course the way she did is exciting. And I know a lot of people can say, oh, well, we didn't have Paige or we didn't have Kristen or whatever. I don't care. I don't think anyone's catching at that point the way in which she played golf, and that
it's a good way
may have
to
inspired
start your
her to
East
say
Coast swing too.
Yeah, and it may have inspired a few other women to think about how they're approaching things. It was incredible. So congratulations to Katrina. So for podcast number 365, thanks Connor, Johnny V, myself, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. We're gonna have some after show action coming to you in just a few minutes. We'll see you then. You step inside the Smash Box.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 365's After Show. It's 366.
It is 366.
As soon as I said it's funny, I don't normally screw that up.
No, 365 was last week.
Yeah, well, nonetheless, if you're here, we're sorry. You shouldn't be here in the first place. Yes, 366. We just talked to Connor O'Reilly. I'm going to be just brutally...
I don't like him.
Not brutally honest. I'm going to dig in a little. I have to, and maybe he's new. I have to concentrate to not screw up Connor O'Reilly.
His name?
His name. And it's
I don't have
nothing
a
to do with
problem
him
with that.
personally.
He seems like a great
I'm
guy.
not- it's not him. It's just like spitting it out for me is.
I am shocked. I mean, absolutely shocked.
That I didn't.
You didn't go with the O'Reilly.
It's just too.
It's
almost,
too easy.
It's too easy to where it's like so predictable and stupid that I won't even take that low hanging fruit. I'm not much of a.
No. There are so many low hanging fruit that you take. I thought you'd throw it in once.
No.
And then after that, you'd be done.
So is there anyone? Because there's got to be people in the country that don't know what we're talking about.
I don't think so, because I thought it was a local thing. I was like, oh, maybe it's just local. It is nationwide.
Okay.
A lot of people know the O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Yeah.
Woo.
Is an American auto parts retailer. We are not sponsored in any way, shape, or form by them, by the way. And we didn't even bother asking. Holy cow, their stock price is $594. Anyway, which I guess isn't that big of a deal. But O'Reilly Parts is an American auto parts retailer that provides automotive aftermarket parts, tools, supplies, equipment, and accessories to the United States, serving both the professional service providers and do-it-yourself customers.
But you didn't do not just the
Founded
theme.
1957.
You didn't make any reference to cars or getting fixing up some sort of forehand and maybe he could pick that up at an auto parts store or something.
No.
I wonder if he knows any. Even something subtle like that. I was just expecting something.
None.
Terry.
I feel like it's so.
I don't care.
Just low hanging. Just not. I mean,
I don't care.
I hear you.
I was sorely disappointed.
Let me put it this way.
No.
I didn't come up with anything incredibly creative that I thought would then be worthwhile to share. If I'm not saying I wouldn't go there, I would. But it would have to be something that would be just wildly creative in order for me to pull that tie together or to tie it all together. And I just didn't. So, welcome everyone. This is, in fact, the Smashbox TV After Show. If you're new here, or you're one of Connor's new fans and or just found out about the show, or otherwise, in the After Show, Johnny and myself ramble on about what may or may not be disc golf related. Usually, it somewhat surfaces around disc golf topics and things going on, but it can very easily get sideways into a lot of other really dumb and or obscure topics that could range from where Johnny V and I worked while we were in high school or college.
Hunnet's custard store.
It could be 90s or 80s references to music. There's a lot of other ways that this can go. Sometimes it can get into some fantasy and or cryptocurrency, other sporting activities or events, or often tics, frustrations, and
rants
and nuances, things that we really dislike. We also love to interact with you on the chat board. I personally usually keep track of the chat board taking place on YouTube. So if there's something you want to bring up, we will likely read it and or respond to it and maybe even chat about it. Cap'n something or other moist beard out there is proclaiming or what's the word? Is lobbying is a better word to become unbanned over at the DGPT YouTube page. And we probably technically wield that power. Maybe we might still, but you're gonna have to go to the. You're going to have to go through the official chain of command. 5 years ago, we might have been that guy or those guys. Now, not so much.
Nope.
So
reach out to Seth Fenley.
Yeah. If you did something that you shouldn't have done, it's probably funny because me or Johnny probably did ban you. Maybe not.
No.
Depends on when you were being
if it's been in
a jerk or offensive.
It
It could have been someone else, but probably not good if you got yourself. You're saying it's true. I did nothing, and if that's what you're referring to, like you did nothing at all, like you were always civil, polite, cordial, upstanding, genuine, non mean spirited. Like if you did all of those things, we don't just randomly like, hey, let's play band pin the tail on the donkey and just like flip through the chart and then be like, oh, let's ban this guy for funsies. I guarantee you did something that warranted it as a ban. That would be my guess. All right. What? Conor O'Reilly rolls off the tongue. It's all personal. It's just me. I need to figure out. Maybe I'm afraid that I'm going to say it wrong because he is a newcomer. I'm afraid I'm going to say some other name or mispronounce something. It is very easy. So that's why I say this is a personal problem.
It definitely is.
Captain says we're going to edit this. No, we're not going to. We don't edit anything.
If you think we're editing anything, you haven't been around.
Yeah, long enough. Emily says no edits in the after show. Anything goes. Almost anything goes in the regular show. Rarely do we.
So Captain, I have some access to the YouTube of the Pro Tour, and I want to tell you I cannot do it.
Oh.
It is an area that I do not have permission. I think I'm only like a manager. I think you need to be like an owner because I can't get into the actual account portion of it where you need to go to unban people.
Ooh.
So, sorry from
above
here,
your pay grade, Johnny.
Above my pay grade. Because I was going to see if I could see who if you were banned, and I can't.
All right. Sorry. You say I be a stand-up citizen. When developing the disc golf course, what do you think we should do with existing sand hazards? My first question would be, what is the desired intention of the course? Is it a tournament-style course? Is it a casual course? Is there going to be a ton of upkeep and maintenance? Is that considered a big deal to try and be able to upkeep a fine line around sand traps? Like I'd have to ask about 10 questions before I could really thoroughly answer that. I mean, it seems common practice to leave them as a quote unquote bunker and have somebody get a penalty stroke and maybe have to play from there, or get a penalty stroke and you treat it like regular OB. I guess that's going to go hand in hand though with how you've designed where the actual pin is. I mean, are you putting a pin on a slope or on a hill, and then in every direction there's a bunker that's 7 feet away? I'd feel different versus if you said, oh no, there's 3 bunkers that you find in all 18 holes. Like it would kind of depend on what you're trying to accomplish with the course and who will be playing it.
Ray Zerhausen asks, what do you think the viability of being an agent for disc golfers today, or a tour manager like Ari? I think that's 2 different questions. I will answer them both, though.
Yes.
I don't believe there's a lot of viability in being an agent right now. You would have to be an agent to, I would say, at least 10 to 15 of some of the bigger players, probably in order to be quote unquote viable as an income stream, assuming that the manager makes, we'll just say 10% of whatever yearly a player gets. So assume
yearly sponsorship money, not necessarily yearly earnings.
Not
or
yearly
income.
earnings, just sponsorships.
Sponsorships
Okay. That you help them acquire, I would say.
Okay. Yep.
So there's that. Now I think that you give us a few more years. Now might be a good time for someone who can afford to get in on that, to get in on the ground floor. But you have to realize you're going to be taking your lump. So you might have a customer or two, and we'll just say Kevin Jones. Kevin Jones signs a $200,000 contract with Whammo. You get 20,000 of that, and I don't know if that would be yearly or if it's of the total amount of the contract. If it's like, oh, it's 200,000 a year for 5 years, so it's $1 million, so I get $100,000. I don't know exactly how that works. I think it would be 10% of the total contract, but who knows? And so you would, I mean, I guess maybe 5. If you could get 5 to 7 of the biggest players in our sport, that could work out for you. Now, being a tour manager is a whole different subject. I think there's definitely room for being a tour manager because, you could try to be a tour manager for a handful of smaller players, or you could try to just be a tour manager for one larger player. I'm not talking like big germ large.
Hey-oh.
I'm talking, large as in, biggest on tour. Paul Macbeth could have a tour manager. Ricky Wysocki has a tour manager.
Mm-hmm.
Eagle kind of is working with one right now. I think that's what Joey is doing a little bit, but I don't know if he has another one as well. I know Joey's been doing some video stuff, but Eagle had talked about that as well. Oh, that's right. Eagle had talked about bringing his girlfriend on tour and having her kind of help out with some of those duties. I think that's what he was saying. I mean, I think there's definitely potential in it. I think there's potential in both of them. I think a tour manager right now is a more viable solution than a tour agent.
I'll follow that up and just say, I think there's a possibility, we often talk about Ari being out there as Ricky's tour manager. I think it's very conceivable to be a tour manager that maybe isn't even necessarily on the road. And I know you may say, well, that's, that tour. I don't think they have to be on the road to be incredibly useful and resourceful to the player. There's a lot of things that can be done by a tour manager or a brand manager. I mean, there's a lot of ways that we could word this, but I think of a brand manager, a social media manager, tour manager. I mean, where you want to split those hairs and maybe one person's doing 5 of those things, and at a certain point that becomes 3 people or 5 people doing 5 different things. I mean, clearly you have, like, we'll say celebrities, they have agents, they have their day-to-day planners and assistants. They have all of these different people that do different things for them. They're shoppers, they're cooks, they're whatever. I don't think that's entirely crazy. Is it soon or is it in our lifetime? I don't know, but it might also just take the right player to prove that it's useful or possible to even pull off, and then from there, we see more people adapt. I mean, think about it this way.
Okay.
How little, if you're a big enough fan and or supporter of said pro, how little of a salary would you be willing to accept to say, hey, top level pro X, I'd love to be your tour manager, and I'd love to do that for blank amount per year, and they go out and kill it for the next 2 years. I mean, there's plenty of people that would throw their hat in that ring right now for a very little salary. And I'm not suggesting it's a race to the bottom. I'm not suggesting that. I don't want that. But I'm just saying right now, if someone like Ricky Wysocki said, and Ricky's a bad example because he has one. So if Kevin Jones said, hey, do you want to be my tour manager? I think there's a lot of people, especially younger people, that would line up and would do that at a very low cost, and I think could be very advantageous to him and to Kevin's brand. So,
Christian Carrion asks, because he puts $5 in the super chat. So
thank you.
We have to ask the question.
Yeah.
Who would you like to see knock Jake Paul out? I want to see him fight Mike Tyson. I'd like to see Terry knock him out. Like, just he's got to just stand there and just take a punch, or a few of them, depending on. You never know. I mean, they're pretty good. No, Mike Tyson would be fun, just because I don't think Mike Tyson would probably hold back. Mm-hmm. I haven't watched a single Paul fight, mm-hmm. but my understanding is that the competition has not been extremely well versed in boxing.
Yeah,
and he's or hasn't put in the effort that he has. So someone who has a history in the boxing arena, like a Mike Tyson, would probably kill him.
Yeah, he would. And
because I've seen Tyson recently, and he still looks big, and he still looks fast, and he still looks mean. And he is what he is. He's Mike Tyson. But it would be interesting. I mean,
he went up against Mayweather, right? But that was so...
No, not Mayweather. He went up against, was it Roy Jones Jr.? I don't know. I don't think it was Mayweather, though. I don't think it was Tyson versus Mayweather.
No, not Tyson. Jake Paul.
Oh, Jake Paul. Oh. Yes. Yes. I thought you were talking Mike Tyson.
No.
No, Logan Paul went up against him.
Oh, okay.
There's two Pauls.
Which is funny because I was just thinking like how much I don't want to say how much I don't give a shit about either of them.
Same here.
But the fact that I'm interchangeably have mixed them up even within the context of boxing makes it prove how much I would love to see anyone honestly just knock them out. I mean, I understand why they're doing it. I understand it's a ton of money. I understand the beef against, that they're then trying to, go after the UFC and talk about money opportunities and it's created this riff and this additional beef with Dana White. I get all of that, so to speak. Nonetheless, and I'll say this, they're clearly taking it more seriously than I think a lot of people would have given them credit for.
Sure.
I still just kind of hardly care, and that's mainly because I can't stand either of their personalities at all when it comes to their online presence. And I get it, they're multi-gazillionaires via YouTube, and I get all that. That doesn't mean I can admire their hustle and the fact that they've been successful, that doesn't mean I think they're even tolerable as humans. So
yeah, as someone
I'd
says,
love to see anyone knock them out.
It's a celebrity boxing match.
Yeah,
it's barely a real boxing match because any real boxer would probably kill them. And their boxing is, I don't want to say dying, but is on the low of its lows because of UFC. And I think if you put almost any two decently known celebrities in a match, they're probably going to draw something like this.
Yeah, and they'll continue to do it, and good on them. I just, is it of mild interest? Sure, but at the same time, I don't care. So
yeah.
All right. Talking about Ray says the whole scheme is have this hateable guy fight recognizable name, and everyone pays lots of money to hope they see the guy get his ass beat. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. And whether it's via a legitimate fight or otherwise, it somehow hasn't been happening. So good on him. I guess he's been successful in that sense. And at the end of the day, a lot of people are making money. So I guess you have to look at it and say, well, what's the goal? What's the objective? What's the outcome? If it's so that these two people both end up walking away with a bunch more money, then it seems like they've been very successful for those reasons. Ben is a wrestler. Yeah, then there was conversation. Of course, Ben Askren was one of the people that he had fought at one point a few months back. Someone else says Mayweather had held back. Not sure why the fight was worth so much money. I mean, Mayweather, undefeated and has his whole legacy that goes along with it. Tyler Brickley and friends chimes in with a super chat, so thank you. He says, what's something you guys have done recently that you're really proud of but haven't gotten to talk about? Well, that's a very gracious setup, but we're not good people or humans, so I don't know if I can't answer that.
I don't know, because we pretty much talk about almost everything.
Yeah, I mean, we always pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah,
so no.
If I do something good, the world's going to hear about it, my friend. Twice.
I don't know if you have any particular context or if it even matters, but has there been anything that's been it's recently that you're really proud of? Here's something that I hope I get to be proud of that I think is public knowledge, and I didn't. Maybe I'm sure I've talked about it to some degree, but I'm super flattered and honored that I got to do some of the voiceover work for the Fierce documentary, and I hope that it turns out well. I was nervous in doing so, and even when I was done, I felt more nervous than when I started, because I don't want to in any way, shape, or form have it detract or hinder the overall production of that video, because I know the money and the work that Willie and the crew and Paige and just everyone else that was involved with it. So I'm I don't know if I can say I'm proud. I'm flattered that I was a part of it, and I hope that it turns out that I was in fact an addition to the project and in no way hindered or hurt it or brought it back. That would be something that I've got my fingers crossed on.
Wait till you get it, and it's like they just shut.
They didn't use any of it.
It's like 3 words you use.
And Paige won this event, and then that's it. That's all that they used.
They were like, "Ooh, sorry." It's
that very well could be happening, and yeah, that would be pretty funny.
I can't think of anything like that stands out that I've done recently.
Yeah, I mean, if you were a better person, I would think that.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, you totally screwed over the people that you sold the house to, so you should feel good about that.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, it's basically just I put things in the walls so they end up in the attic, so they can't. It's going to take them a while to find that. I consider them gifts.
Have you knocked out any? I mean, you're always very
knocked out Jake Paul or Logan Paul.
I don't want to say you're always very busy at work. Sometimes you are, sometimes more than other. Any major projects at work, for instance, that maybe that somebody wouldn't think or know about since it's your other world outside of disc golf?
No, I'm in the middle of a big phone project where we're basically tearing
cell phones.
No, desk phones.
What the F is that?
I know,
man. Yeah.
Yeah, Cisco Web Communicator, WebEx. So just replacing, 600 people's phones in, 70 different offices in 4 different states. It's mindless spreadsheet work that then you import into a system and work through someone who doesn't read their email. It's honestly whatever. But if anyone has a good connection, I was just thinking this has nothing to do with what I was talking about. If anyone has a good connection on a riding lawnmower, I could use one of those. I'm looking for a riding lawnmower.
God, you lazy. You're
yeah.
I mean, I know you're subtly flexing on us all with the fact that you need a riding lawnmower for your huge yard.
Not at all. It's because I'm lazy.
No.
If this lawn was a quarter of the size, I'd still use a riding lawnmower.
I was gonna say, I mean, do you have 3/4 of an acre? Acre?
Yeah, 3/4 of an
acre. Of an acre.
Yeah.
How long is that gonna take to mow? Push mow?
Probably an hour and a half. I'm basing it on the fact that my 1/4 acre at my last place took me about 20 to 25 minutes.
Huh. Okay.
It's pretty big. A lot of grass.
All right.
I'm excited, though, because I need to get some baskets now.
Yes.
Because I got a disc golfer who was over today, when we're talking about some patio stuff. We figure we're about 150 feet from fence to fence, with some fun little trick shots that can be thrown in there, hyzers, anhyzers, things like that. So I'm really excited to throw some baskets. So I'm thinking maybe one marksman style basket.
So you can just miss entirely.
Yes.
So you're like, hey, you tell the wife, I'm going to go out and practice putt. Don't worry, I'll be very quiet. And then you're like, yeah, I got my marksman, so I just didn't hit anything.
Won't bother the neighbors or anything. And then one regular style, like a marksman or a shift or something like that. And then a regular basket, and just leave them in the backyard, be able to toss back and forth to them and stuff like that. But yeah. So Tyler, the mock shift. That's what I was saying. The mock shift.
All right, I'm going to try and catch up on a few more things here. Have you given anyone rides at the bus stop? No, but just today there was a gentleman walking along what is a road you shouldn't be walking on. It's not quite a highway, but it's also it didn't have a sidewalk, and people are doing 45 on it. So, but it did think to me should I just pull over? Is that weird? It was at 4 p.m, 5. I had just left Goodwill. Oh yeah, let me keep riding this. I literally had just left Goodwill, left a bunch of clothes there, and then I was heading back home. It's right by WCTC, the college, and someone was walking that clearly I thought and then I thought about the conversation with them, and if they got in the car. Like, hey man, do you need a ride? And be like, yeah, I'm going here. I don't really want to walk to where I'm going. I'd be like, yeah, I could give you a ride, even though it was in the 70s today. It was beautiful out in Wisconsin. And then I thought about if the guy said, "Man, that's different. That's weird. You picked me up. Like I could be a killer," and I would have said to him, "Are you a killer?" And then he would have replied, "Well, no," because I feel like.
But
if you are, is that like a cop where like the old wife says like you have to ask, like if you ask a cop if they're a cop, they have to tell you?
If you ask a serial killer if they're a killer,
yes.
How do they know, as we've always said, how do they know they're not getting in the car with a killer?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I mean, then he maybe if he was smart, he would then say, "Well, are you?"
Jeez.
And I'd be like, "No."
Jeez. It's weird that 2 killers showed. What if you both answer yes? Like, you too? Let's start a club.
Yeah. Like, I just think like at that point, and this did go through my mind today because I thought like, well, if you asked a guy like, how awkward does that feel if you're like, "Are you a killer?" And he would be like, if he was.
What if he said, "Define a killer"?
Like he would be readily
available to kill you.
He'd be ready to go to kill me at that moment. Like that's how I would define a killer. Like if he's a previous killer, I don't care. Like I care like, are you like an active or trying to be an active killer? And I say, are you
a
like
practicing killer, or is that like part of your past?
Is that like, are you retired or? And he'd be, I just feel like there would be this weird obligation of like, shit, yeah, man, I should probably tell him, yeah, I can't lie about this. Like, yeah, I am. Yeah. And then I guess I don't know what I'd say after that.
Please get out, or would you get out of the car? Be like, "Oh, well, crap, take my keys, get out. Please,
I don't know. I swear all of this went through my head today as I drove past someone. And then it also hit me like, if you're an active killer, are you counting on your next prey, your next hit, so to speak?
You don't watch enough serial killer
I don't.
shows.
Are you counting on somebody just to randomly pick you up?
Yes.
Because that seems like you're pretty passive at that point. Like you don't seem like you're really a go-getter. I think of someone that if they're a killer, they're finding ways to like line up their next move. Like just walking down the road is not like, that's where I thought like, no, you're just walking down the road. You're not expecting someone to come pick you up. And so at that point, he's being a pretty passive, like, cause then you're just kind of lazy. If you're like, well, if somebody picks me up today, yeah, I'm going to kill them. Like, no, I feel like you have a little bit more of a predetermined, I mean, and nobody's killing me for my car, my 2003 Honda Element. So
I don't know. Those are sought after.
They are. They
literally might be.
I don't know.
Or your catalytic converter in it.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So those thoughts all went through my head today. And yes, if that was you, Ray, I apologize.
That
if that's
is a vision into Terry Miller's mind that nobody wanted or asked for.
But I did just drop off clothes at Goodwill. So I don't know if that'd be poetic or not, but all right, let me see if I can continue to read a few more. Darren LeMay's coming in with some info. Jake Paul.
Someone said, good thing I did this week.
Yep. I'm glad that after some research, you checked your emails, and then you come back and you're like, wait a minute, I do have something that...
I let Darren LeMay make an ass of himself in the fantasy draft.
Okay. Picking some poor choices?
Yeah, all of them.
Should I be making fun of him at this point for our team?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. He didn't do well?
Yeah, he was...
I mean, does he think he did well?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he does. If he does, he's out of his mind. Just teasing Darren.
We'll see how that excuse me, plays off. Yeah, all right. Darren had asked, Terry, who made that doc? What is the expected release? What I can just quickly touch on is there was an Indiegogo that Page released months ago. It ended up being an entire crew of people. They were at the Worlds. They were at Jonesboro. I think the first time we saw them was... No, it wasn't Stockton. They were also in Stockton. They were at a ton of the events throughout the year. Not every single event, but most of them.
A lot of them.
At quite a few, capturing an insane amount of footage. They got a ton of interviews with a lot of different people, extracurriculars, and then some. Like it was a major, this is a gentleman that has a lot of offers to do professional work for big brand names. and he had told me that he had turned down a lot of different opportunities throughout the year to do this full-length documentary. The release date, I had heard at one point that they might try and submit it to some festivals here in the fall, but I also heard that it may be early 2022. So I know there was an AMA that I admit I did not get a chance to watch, but there was an AMA with Willie and Paige that probably answers a ton of these questions, and I should go back and watch that. That was released weeks or months ago. It's been out there. Christian asks with a super chat, thank you so much, what's the worst bathroom story or incident on the disc golf course? Everyone has one.
My own?
You didn't say your own, but clearly one that comes to mind, and I think this is interesting from a bigger picture, just to sidetrack briefly. First of all, the Paul Macbeth, Johnny McRae question about him using the bathroom at the memorial all those years ago. That was kind of one of the more infamous situations of when Paul went to the bathroom and I think Johnny didn't realize it or something, and he was So that was click on a message board to read all about that. But this year, I think one of the proposed rules changes that we might have touched on a week or two ago is they're talking about putting it in the rules that essentially bathroom breaks are allowed.
Oh, yeah.
Totally understandable. It makes sense. Bodily fluids and functions, and everybody's a little bit different, and situations and emergencies and semi-emergencies arise for a lot of different reasons. And so I know there's is it verbiage or verbiage? Is it the same? Anyway, that's being proposed and talked about with regard to rule changes. I'll admit I don't have any really crazy personal stories. I mean,
not on the course. No.
No, well, I don't want to hear your any off-course bathroom.
You were there.
Is this in Madison?
No, this is in Houston.
Oh, okay. So they're okay. I was thinking about some of our fellow friends being locked in a bathroom and potentially passing out and worrying about their overall safety before a round the next morning. Mm-hmm. That was 20 years ago.
Yeah. That was a long time ago. No,
but that was still relatively minor.
No, in Houston where I wasn't feeling well, but our car got towed that night,
mm-hmm.
and so we were very upset with the people who towed the vehicle, and so after and we're in some shady area of Houston, wherever the car tow lot is, one of them, I'm sure.
Usually those aren't in the most upscale neighborhoods.
Not usually.
Car tow lots, yep.
Yep. I used the restroom off in some bushes, and then took the dirty clothing that I used to clean up and threw it over the tow lot fence. Because I was very upset that it required $162.50 exact change.
Yes. To retrieve
the vehicle that wasn't ours, wasn't our rental vehicle.
Yeah, it was not in our name because we were not old enough, so it was in our friend's name.
We had borrowed it for the night.
With his permission.
Yes, with his permission.
But still not legally supposed to be driving.
Because we weren't on the registration for the rental.
Because we weren't 25.
Yeah, but other than that, no, I mean... Not so much.
Right.
We got a bidet in the house. That came with the house. I mean, that's pretty great. That's bathroom talk right there.
Yeah, it certainly is. All right. Are they using an animated Tear Bear for the documentary? No, they are not. Does Paige
pretty great.
Bring the filmmaker?
Just have you pop up
it's a super serious documentary, and then there's
Hi, I'm Terry Miller. Let me tell you about Paige Pierce. Paige is one of our greatest players of all time. She has 5. That's more than the number of paws I have. Digits of world championships.
Yeah.
See you folks later. You just hop off the screen.
That would make sense. That's probably what they're doing for the documentary.
I hope so.
I mean, if the term fierce isn't directly then applied to, a bear, narrated bear. I don't know what does. So that makes sense. All right. Ray says, I think the evolution of many more cams in DGN live streams and the switching and production improving a lot this season. That's so much, to be pointed, of course, at just Disc Golf Network and the Disc Golf Pro Tour and the reinvestment of your subscribership.
Yeah.
That's what that is. The numbers, the cost of the cameramen, the equipment, the streaming services, and everything. It's so easy to think about, well, this camera costs this. Yeah, but there's an operator, and then there's an operator that needs to get from event to event, and then there's, an overall, budget that then feeds and houses and travels this operator, and then equipment breaking down, and backups, whatever. All of that is attributed to the subscriber network and the opportunities, because if we didn't have that, it just would not exist, and hence it didn't exist for many years. So that's where that comes from. Do you think that DGN has made a notable improvement or leap in coverage and quality this season? I mean, that's a loaded, pointed question. Yes,
it is a pointed question.
For the reasons we just said.
Yeah, I guess if you define more cameras as better quality and all of us getting just a little bit better at our jobs, I think so. I don't believe that we've done anything earth-shattering this year as opposed to last year. We're just better at what we do. We're more coordinated. There's more cameras, which makes it more exciting because we can cover more things. I mean, it used to be where we'd have 3 cameras, you'd have 2 on the lead and 1 on the chase. And if somebody was coming from the third card, sorry, I guess you're not getting covered. Now, in some events, we can do that. We can have, an event like Iron Hill. I talked to Mo, I think the very first day, and I said, hey, this is almost like this course requires 3 cameras on one card, because the way those players will bounce off fairways, you could have one person 70 feet to the left of the fairway and somebody 70 feet to the right of the fairway. Getting a camera back and forth to there is miserable. And then you have par 4s where you need to make sure that your catch camera can get to the next position. So having extra things to bounce to, extra coverage on the chase card or a third card is vital. And this weekend we saw, there were some people clamoring that why weren't we covering Austin Hannum from the third card? And that was a tough decision, because we looked at the scores before the round and we made an educated guess that said we were going to have 3 cameras on the lead card, and then what we call like the FX6, which is our super slow-mo cam. Because we looked at that, and then we put 2 on the, 2 on the chase. And then Hannum went off, and he had his ace on 15. So we looked at that, and we're like, oh, crap. On 16, he was within a few. And it was like, how do you get somebody from – is there a good way to get somebody from 13 or 12, where we were, over to 16 to 17? And my understanding is, and I don't know the course that well, the easiest way is to basically just chug up the fairways. And so – we had to make a call. And so having one camera be the dedicated slow-mo cam, that doesn't work for live shots because of the way it autofocuses or manual focus and manual zoom. We would have had to have him go all the way back to Tournament Central, pick up a new camera, run all the way back out there. It just, unfortunately, we made a decision at the beginning of the day based on the numbers. And I can't say it bit us. It would have been really cool to see Austin, because he took second and he had a phenomenal back nine. But even if we got to him, we were going to get 2 holes of him, honestly. Yeah. Had he done that, had he done what he did from the back nine on the front nine, we would have got to him, and then he would have tanked, and we would have felt bad, because we've done that plenty of times where we send a camera to somebody and because they're hot and they cool off right away. So are we getting better? Yeah. Are we going to start hitting a limit? I think so. Like it gets difficult to cover more cameras. We all have only so many eyeballs in the studio and so many things we can switch back and forth in. But Pro Tour keeps pushing, keeps growing, and we get better at our job, and then we get worse because we try a bunch of new things. Then we learn how to do those, and we get better. And
I
tough.
think one of the at a certain point, to some degree, even if we've recorded, 50% of all the shots that get thrown out at Iron Hill, and we record them, whether it's in a replay camera or a replay situation or off camera, getting to them and bouncing around to them becomes a little bit disjointed for some people. People often say that, cutting back and forth from the men to the women can be a little disorientating. That's one thing. Just imagine if we were bringing you shots from all over the course, and let's be fair, some of them are part of a story, and some of them are just one-off shots. And then
they're cool
you
shot
may
or
say
a
to
great
us,
shot.
"Oh, cool! Somebody threw it in from 98 feet on hole 17 when we're back on hole 3," and someone would say, "I don't care about that. They're in 144th place." Yeah, cool. They threw it in. Like it continues to be one of those. It becomes very subjective as to what's important to you. Our producers trying to tell a story, trying to fit a narrative of what's unfolding or what he feels like is the best story as we're continuing to move through the course of a round. Everyone has a slightly different perspective, and this kind of then wraps up into the whole, well, I don't want to watch 3 people talking on a tee pad or 3 people discussing a lie near an OB line. I'd rather us be watching another shot by some other card. That's always going to be subjective because I would rather hear this conversation unfold and how they arrived at this disc being inbounds or not, if it's a really close call, versus seeing 3 other approach shots by somebody on the 7th card. Like, again, everyone's going to be a little bit different. So my whole point to this is, even with more cameras and more coverage and more potential for replays, we're always going to have to pick and choose about what is it worth to show and to cut when it's something that's outside of the true contenders of that day. Now, if we get an ace on hole 17, of course we want to show that, but we're going to have to draw a line somewhere. So someone mentioned that they saw I apologize, I think it was Matt maybe, mentioned that he saw the professional volleyball player. I think is he a four-time Olympian or gold medalist? I don't want to take anything away from him, but there was a conversation about him around the time of the celebrity
Oh yeah, that's right.
Pro-Am. Phil, I believe is his name, and trying to get him involved, and it sounded like it was really just timing. Like the Pro Tour and the powers that be found out essentially just a tad too late to get him involved, but he was very much talked about as a potential for that. So just keep that in mind. Somebody says they played around with him and he was a great guy, and none of that surprises us. Somebody within our circle knew him, and it sounded like it really was just timing that we missed out on having him as part of the Celebrity Pro-Am. So I wanted to throw that in there.
Seth McDonald says flying a hole after a lead card has thrown their drive doesn't make sense to him.
I think
it depends. First of all, it depends on the hole. If it's a par 4, I think it can, because you're seeing, oh look, this is about where they landed, and now here's where they have to go from here. Because that gives the commentator something to talk about. My understanding is golf does it after shots as well. They don't do it. They don't preview to the hole usually. I'm sure there's exceptions. Say, hey, this is what they're coming up to. No, maybe they do it. They also do it maybe in chunks at times. I've heard, like I hear the next 2 or 3 holes. Mo has a tendency to, and again, this is, I'm going to throw him under the bus here because he makes all these decisions. He makes the decisions when we play the whole previews and what we play when we play commercials, all this other stuff. So it's his decision ultimately. But I think his thought process is he likes to see cool holes. So if it's like a cool water carry, he'll show you that. When it fits into the broadcast, so for instance, if we don't have something banking on replay, then it's a chime that we can use that for a whole preview. But if it's up to Mo, you will probably never see it before the throws. And I don't necessarily agree with that at times, but that's just the mentality that Mo has taken for this. And I can't fault him. I mean, he's doing something right. We're doing very, very well, and everyone seems to like what we're doing. Everybody has qualms about things. There are times I'd like to see shots beforehand, but on a par 4, you fly that entire hole. That's a minute and 47-second fly through.
And it's 800 feet, and it's like, okay, nobody got past 300.
Yeah. What are you seeing there?
Sure.
I could understand the argument if I want to see par threes before they throw them, but a lot of time par threes you can see the basket from the tee, and you can kind of get a general idea. So I'm also one of the people who thinks that in general, par 3-hole flyovers are not extremely useful from the perspective we have it. I would rather see a course map or an up-top view of the hole so that you can kind of generally see where it is. But a par 3 flyover is like, okay, cool, here's 340 feet that every one of these players is going to throw. And half the time on a par 3, the drone will take the direct line. Every player is going to throw a giant spike hyzer that the drone isn't going to follow.
Sure.
So to me, it give or take. That's just my preference.
Yeah, and what I'll say to it is, obviously we've been ingrained that a drone flyover used to be referred to as a drone preview, a whole preview, and therefore it felt as if it had to happen before you watch someone play a hole. I very much subscribe to that, so who's ever saying that, I can agree in your logic there. I've warmed up to the idea that sometimes we will show it after the tee shots have been thrown. A lot of the things Johnny just said make a lot of sense. In general, I'll say I've warmed up to it. I do like the idea of seeing it before the hole gets played, personally. That used to be, not just because that used to be our standard, it just, to me, does make the most amount of sense, but also, as Johnny just explained, there's other reasons where it may not. I've warmed up, but I'd love to see it before the hole is played myself as well. So
more frequently?
Yeah, and maybe a little bit more frequently. Touching back real quick, someone said that you can hose out an element, therefore it's a perfect killer scar.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true, and I will also follow that up and say, I think Connor O'Reilly getting an O'Reilly reference is right on par with people telling you that you can hose out elements. Of course, I've owned one now for 10 or 12 or 15 years. That's, I swear to you, the number one thing people say when you mention an element. You know how many times I've hosed out my elements?
Probably once.
In like 15 years? 0 times.
Never once hosed it out?
Never once have I hosed out.
It just doesn't seem like it would be...
like logical, like you would want to run a hose inside your car even if the floor allows it or welcomes it. Yeah,
I just
exactly.
Think like the fabric chairs and...
Yeah, and there's a lot of things you can fold them up, and I have used and abused my element like none other over all these years, my multiple elements. It's just funny that, and it is, it's like this, it's almost like a linoleum style or rubberish plasticky floor that you can have, that it does have by default. It's just funny that is the number one thing that everyone mentions when you have an element. Oh, you can hose those out. Like you could take, like, yes. And I think very few people do it. So it's just kind of funny. Darren had suggested that we have a segment on the show talking about shows or a book club, but instead of books, we talk about music, movies, or pop culture. And Darren, I feel like we kind of do almost that every week, kind of dip into some of that if it's appropriate.
No, maybe he means that he wants us to all get everybody together to watch the same show and talk about it. Like, hey, everybody, let's watch Ted Lasso
I'm not on board
something,
with that.
or whatever that may be.
I mean, in concept, it's nice, but I'll just tell you, I would never commit to that. I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, I don't watch TV, but I genuinely... I'm down to, unless it comes as a recommendation from Johnny that then can be downloaded so that I could maybe binge watch it on a plane, like to Maple Hill tomorrow. I set aside exactly 0 minutes out of the week to consume anything on television or on whatever it's called.
Streaming.
OTB services. OTT services.
Not OTB.
Not OTB.
I believe Only the Best is putting anything out. Now, maybe they are. I know they've got some podcasts. I don't know if they're doing any live streaming for you, though, Terry. I think they do some Twitch streaming, and I know you're a big fan of watching people play video games.
Yes. God, I could not dare think of a more obnoxious waste of time in my life. And I get it. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. I'm not going to get into it, but never. I don't got time for that. Somebody asked about, no, I was never a race car driver, although I did have the pleasure in being a full immersion VR setup at Jeff Hungerford's a few weeks ago while in Colorado. It was cool, but if I never did it again, I also wouldn't be mad. Ray brings up a point that we should just quickly touch on. He says the commentary was the best of the season. Thanks. That's not why I was saying it. It was obvious Terry and Philo.
Look what Terry wants to bring up. Yeah, look how great I was this week.
No, obvious Terry and Philo made an effort to speak like 25% less and let the shots speak for themselves. Great work. And then it was kind of echoed along the lines with Christine. Johnny has said this countless times, and I continue just to essentially repeat it, that I do love the idea of just a little less conversation in general. And that's not pointed at anyone. That's just a conscious decision on my part that I feel like we can just watch a little bit more golf, let the golf speak for itself, let it breathe is something we say. And Johnny has said it, and I then repeat it all the time, which is, act like silence is your third or fourth or second commentator, or whatever the case might be. Act as if silence is another commentator that you also have to give it its time to. And sometimes I feel like that's more received than others. There's been times where I've tried to, give it a little bit more room, and some other commentator, whoever it might be at the time, may think, oh, well, Terry's just not very talkative today. I'm going to talk more. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, so if I'm talking less, that's usually the tone in which I'm trying to maybe either set or accomplish. And I will say in general, it did feel like we all just let a little more golf play out this weekend. And we didn't have like a powwow about it or like a meeting. It just, I felt like that kind of was felt, and we all kind of rolled with it. We talked about it a little bit, but
normally I kind of have the phrase that I think every commentator can talk 10% less, and then when you think you've talked 10% less, you probably want to talk 10% less than that. But I didn't feel that way this weekend. I thought that it was a very good pace. It was a very good amount that you guys did just in general, and I don't listen to a lot of it. I hear it. I don't listen to it. But the amount of talking I heard seemed like close to the right amount.
Darren says, I never have felt like I wanted to hose down my car's interior. Well, then you're apparently not a killer either. So maybe that's good.
He's from Florida, so I wouldn't put anything past that.
Ouch.
They have different definitions.
A different Darren, though. Not Darren LeMay said that.
I thought Darren LeMay said that. Never mind then. Sorry. Sorry, other Darren.
Yeah, Darren Eck. We don't know. I mean, Darren LeMay, maybe.
Maybe you're from Florida. Then you probably could be a serial killer. I think there's like a 1 in 6 chance.
I do feel like, that's one of the reasons why Elements didn't perform well sales-wise is...
people were busy hosing them out.
No, they were. Because everybody would hose it out, and then they ruined it. And they're like, damn it, I don't want this car anymore. And Elements like, but no, you can hose this down. No, I remember reading articles years ago about how it just didn't hit the recreational market like they thought they would. They just thought everybody's going to attach their surfboards, everybody's going to go camping, all these people are going to use this vehicle to go do all these recreational things, and it just didn't hit with that market, and hence that's why it died out and eventually was ended in 2015. I do love mine, though. 256K and counting. On the mileage. All right. Well, we got a giveaway. Let's do some. Let's do some free
Nikes,
stuff.
We do.
We moved to a new house. We still got to give stuff away.
We still
Johnny.
have to give stuff away.
Did you find anything in the house that was left here that we should give away that somebody would want?
No.
Oh, what are all those?
I don't know.
Let's give them away.
They are. They
look like wooden cutouts.
Wooden cutouts.
Are they frame? Are they?
I think it was.
Is it a stencil of sorts?
It looks like it. It's probably about 4.5 feet tall. Some of them bigger. I think
some kind of Christmas or Halloween decorations. Maybe no.
I don't think so. And maybe I'm wrong. In the garage, there is a giant cutout of the word treehouse. Like just the word treehouse cut out. And I'm wondering if this was something decorative they were going to do with it, with the treehouse, because there's a set, if back behind us, behind the curtain, there's a small set of stairs as well that had no use, like a wooden stairs that wasn't attached to anything. No, but the people who lived here were filthy. Like some gross things that we had need to be cleaned up before. And they had an animal and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm not an animal person in general. At least living with them. Everyone's animals, they're great. I love them. And then they can take them away with them.
Until Connor kicks your dog.
Yeah. Until Connor, yes. But yeah, it was there was some grossness at this place. And I don't know what policy is.
I was just gonna say, what's the obligation?
Okay, so we could give that away.
A toilet seat?
Yeah. It was here.
Because obviously when they installed the bidet version had its own toilet seat, hence there's a toilet seat there.
Yeah.
That's what that's for.
Is that something you would ever think about reusing? Like, let's say the bidet broke down, or would you just be like, yeah, I'm good, I'll go get my own toilet
Here's the problem.
seat.
It's tough because did they install a brand new toilet and then
just took out the seat?
instantly
I don't know.
install the bidet, or was that a used toilet seat? I would feel like that toilet seat has to be as I'm staring at it.
Yeah.
That has to be relatively clean and or new / I don't want to say sanitary, clean or new, because if it was gross in any way, shape, or form, they would have just tossed it because they put on a new toilet
More
seat
than likely.
when they got the bidet. So I'm guessing that one, I kind of do want to put it on like a necklace and then stick my head out from.
I mean, you're welcome to.
No, the fans don't want that.
And yes, they do. They actually do. And then my other thing is, like, what is the policy on like things that you leave behind?
Well, if I was going to say things and or cleaning, like how clean
I don't necessarily
do you have to leave
I think
your sold house? Are there stipulations?
no, there's none. I think
So they could just left it totally trashed.
not trashed, but
I'm saying they could have.
they could have left it more full, maybe. So there were a few things that they left behind. A giant desk, which
Oh yeah, which is out
in
now
the
being
front,
thrown away.
hoping
I was going to put it in my car, my Element.
hoping somebody takes it away.
Okay. Which no one probably will.
No
but
one probably will.
I did think to myself when I pulled up, I'm like, why did you move a desk that you're just now throwing away? But it was here.
It was here, and
makes more sense.
And like some cruddy, and it's sturdy. It's in decent shape, but it looks like trash. Not trash. It looks just raw. I'll put it that way. A giant like low bookcase with wheels on it, like a storage thing.
Okay.
And in the we have like an external shed back there, just tons of like gardening stuff, like chicken wire. And I'm thinking, like, what's the policy on that? Like, do you just get to leave whatever you want at the house, and the next people have to deal with it? Like, that's kind of rude. I think the only thing I'm leaving at the house that we're selling is probably some maybe some like weed killer and stuff, like just a little bit. And
you don't want to bring it with you?
There was like a half empty one, like one that had, it was less than half empty. It was probably like a quarter, and there's a full one that I had. I grabbed the full one. I'm like, they might need it. The other, I don't know where they're coming from, but I can't imagine leaving anything like that someone would have to like go out of their way to dispose of, like something that just wouldn't fit in the garbage. Like if you didn't want this, it would be very easy to throw away. But no, the stuff they left me is a giant pain in the butt. Now the cool thing they did leave me is like some hose attached, like this big, it looks like almost like a radio flyer, but it's for hoses. Like you attach a hose and you roll it up.
You love your hose.
Love my hose. So yeah. So I don't know what the policy is, but then it was dirty. Like I think just a good vacuuming, even on hardwood surfaces, is a polite thing to do. Just vacuum everything up and that's it. You're done. You don't need to like.
But and then I think
deep
like
clean.
Carpet, like
No.
a really stained carpet, which you may or may not be replacing anyway.
Nope. I think all that like for a carpet, you just do a quick vacuum. For everything else, you do a quick vacuum, like a shop vac or something, just to pick up like, oh look, there's some broken crackers that you found underneath of your couch when you moved. That's kind of gross. I would probably vacuum that up before I left. Other than that, no, I don't think you deep clean anything because you don't know what they're replacing. Like, would you wash down all the walls? Would you repaint a room? No, because that's stuff that you don't know if they're going to replace. So, I don't know. But I got a whole bunch of this useless wood now that is going to end up getting burned.
Okay.
We're going to put a fire pit out back and burn this.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Okay, well, Ray's telling us because we were separated last week, we did not do the giveaway, which makes sense. I was in Salt Lake City. God, it's crazy to think that was a week ago. So, yeah, due to that, we're going to have a double giveaway. And hopefully it's somebody who's like super active and or we have their stuff for, so I could maybe even mail it out tomorrow before I fly out for 12 days.
I hope so. We have 195 people eligible this week for our Patreon giveaway. So patreon.com/smashboxtv. I can't really show the random screen right now because we don't have our third screen set up yet. Because like I said, I threw this together today. The internet was done at about 11:30 this morning.
Which was then at that point when I reached out to Connor and said, I hesitated on asking you because I wanted to make sure that we had internet for the show tonight, in which we did. So super.
And really, the studio itself came together in about an hour and a half as I kind of, right before dinner, just busted myself to make sure I got it done. So I can't show the actual number drawing. But, Terry, I do have random.org up, and the number 190. Oh, wait, did I say 195?
Yeah, 195.
195 is in there. So, first of all, I'm just going to sort it by first name. We're giving away two things tonight. What number should we do? Should we just do number 1 and number 2? Do you want to mix it up?
No, it was the fourth stop on the national tour. So we're going to do the fourth number.
Okay, fourth number. First number is 117. Second number is 57. Third number is 29. Fourth number is 167.
Ooh, so this is going to be like a W name?
167.
Or a T?
An S name, Scott Radke.
Yes, Scott.
Scott Radke. Congratulations.
Holy cow, Scott is as local as they get. I practically, holy cow.
Yeah, he's out of Milwaukee.
I don't think we personally know Scott.
I don't.
But that's crazy.
He lives at my address. That's weird. I'm just kidding.
He lives. He's like, what's all this damn weed killer doing back here? And then it was Connor's first win. So the very next number, the first number you choose, will win something.
110. And what is 110? Let me mark Scott so I don't accidentally forget who it was. All right, so number 110 is scroll up. Kind Vegan John. Congratulations, Kind Vegan. You've been a supporter for a while.
Wow.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
He's out of Vista, California. I just doxed him.
Yes, you did.
So if you can find him in Vista, then there you go.
Quick, this is housekeeping that doesn't apply to our podcast, but let me know when you get our credit card changed over, because I always have to put in your billing address, which now will have a different zip code.
Oh, I should do that soon. Yeah.
No hurries, but just let me know when you do it so that when I have to punch in stuff for the Smashbox TV credit card, I know the correct.
I don't know if I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
Wait till you get declined someday and then laugh at you.
Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it.
That's too bad, Miller.
Scott was that guy walking on the side of the road. Damn it, I should have just picked him up and saved on the shipping then.
True story.
Oh, that would have been a good idea. That definitely would have worked better. Yeah, Anthony, earlier there was some conversation about a final walkthrough and what you can or can't leave behind. You can't just leave a bunch of garbage. I mean, obviously, like I think about,
but the final walkthrough we did was you have a final walkthrough up to 3 days before you close.
Yeah, so if you just left a bunch of,
I was here. We were here on Thursday because we moved in on Monday. So that's when there was still a grand piano upstairs.
I think that's yours then.
And like as we so kindly referred to it, I mean, it was a futon.
Mm-hmm.
Which was in awful shape.
Yeah, I don't think there's any futons that are in good shape.
I mean, this one was like, it looks like it was basically the dog's bed.
Yeah, it probably was.
Because we came in and it smelt, and the house in general smelled of like wet dog, because they had a dog and they had a baby apparently, and so I was just like, I talked through. I'm like, they're gonna get rid of this stuff, and he's like, yeah, no problem. Well, the futon was broken down and shoved into the garbage cans. Like a full futon, like all of it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I hope they take that. The grand piano was gone. I don't know if I say grand piano. I don't know if it was a grand piano. It was a piano. It was a big wooden like piano
thing with keys.
Yeah, I mean it was a big piano. They had it in their living room. So ultimately, I was like, oh, bummer, I don't get to keep that. And they still had some stuff down here. Now, when we came, obviously on Monday after the closing, the piano was gone. The futon was in the trash. But there was still a desk here, and like I said, the storage thing, and just in general, a whole bunch of wood, and I don't know, burn it. That's what I say. We're gonna have a big old bonfire, Swedish bonfire.
That's what you should do.
Yeah, I'm sure the city won't mind.
No, I'll permit you.
Oh, good, Terry Miller.
Permit or permit?
Either one, Terry. I'm good with it.
Doesn't matter. All right, guys, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, and everyone else, thank you so much for joining us tonight. So many of our regular smashies out there. We appreciate each and every one of you guys. Tim, I do want to reach out to you. We should have a chat. I'd love to know if there's maybe some artwork I could commission from you. I think it'd be something fun that I could maybe get on a disc stamp of my own or t-shirt or something. So we can talk offline, as the kids say. I think they say that. We're going to close it down. Next week, I'll probably, don't know, I'll be either in transition from the East to the West Coast, or I'll figure out where I'm going to be come Tuesday. I think I'm kind of working on those details. Excited to be out at Maple Hill at the MVP Open this weekend. And then by the next week, I will be in Bend for what will be the Smuggler's Notch. Timing on that's a whole nother story, but it should be a lot of fun.
I'm just happy that Connor this week gets to go back to his people, Boston area.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's probably got, probably going to a Harvard bar with all his friends, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and Casey Affleck. I'm sure that's where he's going. So you can whatever. Oh, you're so stereotypical. Putting people in boxes or Red Soxes or something. For Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, all of our amazing Smashies, Patreon subscribers, and then some, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Looking forward to MVP Open all 3 days, live Disc Golf Network action. We'll then check in with you next Tuesday for number 367. Again, Terry Miller, Johnny V. We'll see you next week when you step inside the Smash Box.